right, and hello YouTube. Welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast. We're here for a roundtable number 127. This is just a live stream of our podcast, so it will be a little bit longer than normal YouTube videos. But yeah, we're here recording live here on a nice cooling off September finally here in Utah. No more 100-degree weather, hopefully.
You say that, and then I'm going to go look at the weather, and I'm going to find out that 2 days next week is supposed to be like 95, and I'm going to be mad.
Yeah. Well, you can't blame me. But yeah, so we're here.
Yeah, I can.
No, I don't think so. Let's see. We might have a couple people in the chat. Nobody's chimed in yet, at least that I could see. Although we have found that yours is a little bit different than mine sometimes.
Are you on live chat or top chat?
Yeah, I'm on live, but I feel like there's been times where you're like, oh, there's a response. I'm like, I haven't seen a response
yet.
Mike.
So there is Mike in the chat. So
okay, cool. So let's
you were saying an agamorphy.
Let's go ahead and hit the intro and dive in. I know we're a couple minutes early, but I don't know. Why not?
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, the Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for roundtable number 127. So just chugging right along now. No more things for quite a while now. To 150 for our next milestone episode.
I guess.
Yeah, we're past 19, past 25. So yeah, it'll be a bit, but it's all good. That's always where in the comics where they hide the good ones. It's not necessarily on big landmark numbers, but it's always just some random ass number that's always has good issues. So let's go ahead and jump into the intros. First, I want to warn you about spoilers. There's going to be some, basically anything Dark Tower Palaver related is going to potentially be spoiled in this episode. We don't ever plan it, but it does happen. There are some light spoilers. I'm trying to remember what they were as I was prepping the episode for other Dark Tower stuff. One thing we will not be spoiling, we will be talking a little bit about Fairy Tale, but we will not spoil it. We actually made a rule after the Institute that we would give some time before we covered a novel. You know what's funny though is I think that's the last novel we've covered, and that was in 2019. So I think there's a couple novels that we could potentially hit.
Billy Summers need to be hit soon.
Yeah, I was about to say because is that If It Bleeds, we still have not talked about. That one's been out since 2020.
I thought we talked about If It Bleeds.
And then later in Billy Summers, that was last year. So maybe a little bit more time for those ones. But If It Bleeds is certainly something that we might have to spend a little bit of time and have a sectioned off portion of the Palaver section and talk about If It Bleeds a little bit. But yeah, we won't spoil anything for Fairy Tale if you haven't started that yet. We will talk about it a little bit, though. There's obviously a lot of publicity that's been going on for the book. So, but with the Dark Tower series, though, that stuff will get spoiled all the time. If you haven't finished the series, stick to our book club episodes. There we make sure that our spoilers are all contained at the very end of the episode, and we give you ample warnings, both visual if you're on the YouTube side and auditory if you're on the YouTube or the podcast side. And then next up, if you want to find us, you can find us on Apple Podcasting. You can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, any podcasting service. You can subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those. We would appreciate that. You can find us at youtube.com/Dark Tower Palaver if you want to join us here live for the live streams, or if you want to watch after the fact. We do have our show notes that are on the website at darktowerpalaver.com, but if you maybe don't want to go check over there, you can always watch our podcast on YouTube, and you see all the visual stuff up on the screen as well, kind of like what Peter's seeing here live.
Yeah.
And then if you want to or then on the YouTube side, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. So anytime we're going live, we generally have a pretty good schedule. But if there's ever any changes to that, if you have those notifications on, you'll know that we're going live, and you can join us and be in here and torment Peter with emojis, which is a good time for people in the chat to throw some emojis in here to torment Peter a little bit.
Just stop it.
Is there a werewolf emoji? That's what we really need.
No.
Or maybe I know there's a monkey emoji. Doesn't have
There's
symbols.
probably like a dog or something like that you can use.
Unfortunately, it doesn't. The monkey doesn't have symbols, though. I have looked. So,
you can get like custom ones, right?
custom emojis.
Yeah.
I know.
You can download emoji packs and everything.
Interesting. I'll have to look into that. See if there's any Stephen King.
Oh shit!
What?
I messed up. I hid the chat.
You
There we go. Got it.
You broke your chat. Then, like I already mentioned, find the show notes over at darktowerpalaver.com. Everything I'm going to cover in this episode that I've gathered, Peter will be reacting to, and you guys will potentially be hearing for the first time. You can find all those articles over there. We'll have them linked so you can go and check out the full articles. Then if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. Yesterday we had a hangout, one of our monthly hangouts, and we covered the novel of Dr. Sleep on kind of a deep dive. My first time reading it since it came out. It's my first reread. And then up for next month in October, for our monthly hangout, we will be talking about the Dr. Sleep movie.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. Mr. Obi-Wan, saying hello there to all the spooks and ghouls of the Overlook. So
Yeah.
I mean, he is always Obi-Wan, right? I mean, he did a great job. I love him as Dan, but he'll always be Obi-Wan to me.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's Ewan McGregor. He is Obi-Wan.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Next up, you want to contact us. Peter can tell you all the ways to do that.
Best way is to email us is darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. And then our social media is Twitter. It's at darktowerpod. That's at darktowerpod. And then we have our Facebook. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Our Instagram is darktowerpalaver, all one word with no spaces. And then check out our merchandise. It's on TeePublic. It's teepublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver. And you can pick up T-shirts, mugs, posters, stickers. There's all different kinds of things. You can get the original OG logo where it says Dark Tower Palaver below it, or you can get the truth where it says #Ted is terrible above the tower because it's even more true than the tower itself.
Slanderous is what it is.
Yeah,
slanderous. Now, wait, is that some sort of a symbol monkey potentially in the chat there that Mike sent us?
I don't like it.
It's pretty close.
What is that, a demon?
What?
Under the monkey that you put in.
Oh, yeah, the little devil.
Little demon-looking thing?
Yeah, I like it. Definitely kind of reminds me of the Flag from the 90s miniseries when he transforms. I'm trying to remember who he does that to. But
it's Nadine.
Is it Nadine?
It's
I figured it was either Nadine or
Nadine in the desert. Yeah.
No, I thought no. Oh no, I'm talking about when he grabs a person in anger. He does it with her, when he's sleeping with her. But there's the one person he grabs. Was
Lloyd?
As I'll say,
it's when he finds out about
Sue.
No, it's
I have to watch the original again.
Is it when he finds out that the third spy and Lloyd's not talking about it?
Yeah,
he's the one that shut him up about it.
Yeah, that probably makes sense. So yeah, I need to watch that one again. That's a fun one.
What is it? Mick Garris? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Mick Garris is the one that did it. So. So this first one is a fun one, and let's go ahead and dive right in. The title of it is Pennywise Would Be Proud, the most Googled Stephen King movies.
Oh, okay.
So this is by Alex Riviera from Dish on August 19th, 2022. So one thing I'm going to also just pause and say, we covered last time that Dish is doing the 13 Stephen King movies for $1,300
while wearing the Fitbit and everything like that.
And yeah, I know that's probably a publicity stunt. And I've got to say it's a good stunt because in my inbox, my God, how many fucking articles covering that damn thing. Jesus Christ. You'd think it was like the end of the world or something. But this is along with that. Apparently this is kind of a side thing with this with that 13 movie thing. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive in. It says Stephen King has frightened and entertained his readers with classics like It and The Shawshank Redemption for decades. Again, a pause there because I always love when people like synopsize King with a couple works. I'm always interested in which ones they pick because it's always different. It's never the same two, or the same one or whatever. It's always a variety. And It and Shawshank, that's an interesting dichotomy.
That's an interesting duo there.
Yeah, indeed. It says many of King's novels and short stories have been adapted into movies and television shows and have inspired things like Stranger Things. It has been adapted multiple times on the big screen. The Green Mile is one of the highest grossing Stephen King film adaptations, and Salem's Lot is being remade again, hitting the big screen in the near future. Sadly, that is a little bit more nebulous than it used to be.
Yeah.
Next up, it says with so much Stephen King content out there, U.S. Dish's third annual Stephen King Scream Job is in full swing. We wanted to know which movies each state's most searched for Stephen King films. From The Shining to The Green Mile, these are the stories that took over your state's Google search bar the most. So, I mean, of course, the first thing you could notice is there's one that's very prevalent, and it's probably one of the most. Actually, it is the most.
Yeah.
What do you got in the chat there?
Someone commented about Cat's Eye being the most for Nebraska and Kansas, and then I just pointed out, and randomly North Carolina with them as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Is there a Dr. Sleep for Alaska? I do love that The Shining is Colorado. You know, hometown thing there. I'm trying to think, is there any other ones that really jump out?
The Mist is freaking everywhere, just peppered all over the place.
Yeah, The Mist is peppered.
Misery in New York. I mean, I guess, it loves company is what they say. So, New Yorkers.
Yeah, you got 1408 down there in Alabama.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely.
No.
Yeah, it's Alabama.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Mississippi's closer to Louisiana. That's right.
Yeah, and next to the Mississippi River.
Yeah. Oh, no, West Virginia. No. Get the fuck out of here with that.
So let's go ahead and take a look. For the other thing they had, another section of it here is the leaderboard. And the leaderboard, It Chapter 2 has 12 mentions. It Chapter 1 has 18. So 20 of the states are led by It, one way or the other. Then you've got Misery and The Mist at 7. You got 1408 and Cat's Eyes at 4, which Cat's Eyes is an interesting one to be on there a lot.
I've never even heard of Cat's Eyes.
The Dead Zone has 3. Carrie has 2, and then The Shining, Dr. Sleep, Creepshow, and Christine all have 1. Where was Christine at? I didn't notice Christine.
I saw it. Go back to the map.
Yeah, I'm pulling the map back up. It was funny because at first there was the first article I found was only referencing this. They didn't use the map, and I was actually just going to read the whole list. But then I found the link to the real place, and they have it all spelled. Oh, it's up there in North Dakota. Christine?
Yeah, North Dakota.
Okay. So, yeah, let's go ahead and go through some of the interesting facts that they found. Interesting findings. Pennywise is king, sitting atop the search mountain. Both It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2 were Googled the most at 12 and 8 states respectively. Pennywise might be the most famous clown, but for all the wrong reasons. And I don't know about that. I mean, he's a beloved figure.
Stop it.
As King's frightening novel, It was adapted onto both the silver screen and a 2-part miniseries in 1990, and more recently on the big screen in 2017 and 2019. There have been rumors of a third film with a release date yet to be determined, and I don't know about that. There's been speculation, but I don't think there's even been any kind of rumors that would say that's going to be true. We do know Welcome to Derry is coming to our small screens.
Maybe that's what they were meaning.
So, no, because there was that talk about potentially a third It movie. I think even Muschietti talked about it a little bit,
really?
how they could potentially do like backstory stuff, like all the stuff in the novel that hasn't really been scratched yet.
Especially if they did stuff like the Black Spot, the Kitchen Ironworks, the Bradley Gang.
Yeah,
that would be really cool. Actually, if they just did a movie with him, Mike, covering all that while he stayed in Derry, just kind of slow. Like you could also show his like slow slip into madness in between cycles.
Yeah,
because he was kind of kind of like cuckoo in It Chapter 2.
Yeah, I mean,
a little
he
bit.
was eccentric.
He was a little off, Not the cold Mike that we got from the original or the book.
Yeah.
Like in the book and everything like that, he was cold, he was calculating, he was kind of desensitized.
Yeah.
Still terrified and everything like that, but this one he was kind of like conspiracy nut kind of guy. Like the you got to pay attention, man. I expected him to have a board in his house with pictures and yarn connecting, string connecting.
Yeah.
That's kind of how he seemed like to me.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I need to watch it again, but.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I do actually need to rewatch the It ones. I haven't watched the movies pretty much since the 2019. So I think with spooky season approaching, I think that might be
spooky season. How dare you, sir? Spooky season starts September 1st. We've already talked about
that's true. That's true. But I need to look around my Flanagan plans and see what else I need to watch.
That's right. Tad was saying last night, where we're talking about Dr. Sleep. Obviously, Dr. Sleep is going to be a watch for the both of us with our Patreon hangout. But you were also saying that you're tempted to dive back into Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, I'm going to do Haunting of Hill House. I've
Yeah.
been craving that for a couple months now. And then in the chat, Mike says no Maximum Overdrive, and that's true. That's a travesty. Maybe I'll set up some kind of bot that just Googles Maximum Overdrive next year, like every couple seconds, so then Utah will be Maximum Overdrive. We'll pump those figures and screw them up a little bit.
Agamorphy says Cat's Eye may be popular because of Drew Barrymore. I also looked it up just because I was curious what the filming locations of it was. It was filmed partially in North Carolina, so that makes sense why it's in North Carolina. But Connecticut, Kansas, and Nebraska, I don't know.
Yeah. How about the Mist down there in Louisiana? That's where it was filmed, so that makes sense for that one.
Yeah.
Plus, that the bayou, go out there in the swampy area. There's a lot of mist and sinister things out there.
Again, that's why the bayou, not a good place to go.
The next note they have here is Misery Loves Company. Kathy Bates' portrayal in the 1990 classic earned her an Academy Award for Best Actress in a leading role. Both critics and fans loved the film, giving it a 90% rating on Rotten Tomato. The Mist might not have had the star power of it, but it still garnered enough interest to tie third place with 7 states each searching along the most searching it the most alongside a horror counterpart, The Mist. So. Those are kind of some of the leaders there. There's No Place Like Home. The Shining, starring Jack Nicholson, was fittingly the only King horror film searched most in the storied setting of Colorado. It says Here's Johnny. Also became one of the most well-known quoted horror movie quotes in the history, or for decades to come, which is true, obviously. Yeah. So that's I don't know. That's fun. That's like my kind of nerdery, What kind of things to people? And I think this would be interesting. I guess I'll dive into what they said for their methodology too. They said we gathered the top 15 horror and thriller movies by Stephen King and ranked by Rotten Tomatoes. The tomato meter scores represent the percentage of professional critic reviews that are positive for a given television or film. Once we have the top 15 movies gathered, we use Google Trends to compare the search volumes of the top 15 Stephen King movies per state over time. So it is somewhat limited. If there's any bad ones getting maybe higher searches than good ones.
Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, maybe that would actually explain why Maximum Overdrive is not on this list. So maybe if they do it that way, I can't even rig the system and set up a bot to Google it because it wouldn't work. Because its Rotten Tomato score is probably not great. So fun stuff. My brand of nerdery. Definitely we've talked about a lot though. Kind of where it stands in the public ethos, and it is certainly the absolute dominant factor here. Oh yeah, and then the Mist down there in Hawaii too.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen those people on the street things where people seen maps like this and they actually believe that Alaska and Hawaii are like right there below? Like
the best one I ever saw was it's one of those articles where it's like 17 idiots from the internet and how wrong they were and stuff like that. And someone's like, "Well, come on, Alaska's not that far. It's right down there below Texas and stuff like that." And then literally the map had Canada and Alaska on it. Yeah. Like it was of North America.
Well, it's because like maps are usually done this way, but I have actually seen ones too where they show a person like a real map and they're like, "Where's Alaska and Hawaii?" And they all go down towards Mexico and go, "Oh, down here somewhere." Like, wait, I don't see it.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
look at a real map.
Get one of those map balls.
It's called a globe, Tad.
I don't remember what show it was, but there was one where like a stupid parent has like a smart kid and he calls it a map ball. And ever since then, that's what my name for it because it's hilarious.
It's probably Homer.
No, I would remember if it was.
You would
that,
remember if it was Simpsons.
Yeah, Mike says Maximum Overdrive 15% tomato meter, 13 reviews, 50% audience score. So not bad on the audience side. 50%. That's it's at least respectable. It's middle of the road.
Half of those are Stephen King.
No, I'd give it a good review. I would.
You would?
Dude, it was amazingly fun, dude. For what it was. I mean, it's not fucking Citizen Kane, but it's not meant to be. I mean, I had a lot of fun watching it, dude. I would watch it again. I actually had it in my memory that it was way worse than that. So when we watched it, I had a fucking blast, dude. Yeah, I'll have that on my kind of like
radar.
Rewatch every couple of years or so, just for the fun of it. Probably get a few whiskeys, throw them back, and watch that, dude.
Dude, okay, amazing. Here we go. Here's a fun thing to do for you. What's a drinking game you could do with Maximum Overdrive? Every time they say machine, take a drink.
Oh man, I don't know. That'd be an interesting one.
Every time you see a goblin, take a drink.
The Green Goblin, yeah. Okay, so the next article here was actually sent to us by Jack. He emailed in.
Okay.
He says he thought it'd be a good discussion, and I agree. Also, I want to shout out a thank you to Jack for sending it, because somehow my notification catcher from Google did not catch this one.
For shame,
So,
Google.
yeah.
Please don't kill me.
You're gonna like wake up to a drone like tapping on your window.
Just buzzing.
Okay, so this one is Where to Start with Stephen King. And this is by Neil McRobert from The Guardian on August 25th, 2022. And he starts off here by saying, truly the king, pun definitely intended, of horror fiction. Stephen King has been terrifying readers for more than half a century, with more than 60 novels and 200 short stories to his name. The author of It and The Shining, another,
It and The Shining. See, now that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, probably his two most iconic creations.
It's right up there. Yeah.
He says is something of a literary machine, and he's not showing any signs of stopping anytime soon.
Better not.
His next novel, Fairy Tale, comes out on 6th September, which, thank you, British people, for flipping that. It always makes me, like, it just sounds like something from like a spy movie to me. I know it's like normal for them, but for me, I feel like the only times I've heard that is like spy or war movies where they're like, saying it that way to like interface with like other,
On the 5th of November, we were talking with the Chancellor, and it's,
Yeah, exactly. So I do appreciate that. With an author as prolific as King, it can be tricky to know which titles to pick up first. Here, writer and King fan Neil McRobert suggests some good ones to try.
I mean, can't go wrong with Salem's Lot.
So what he does is he actually has kind of some, what you want type thing. So for example, the first one he has called The Entry Point. Then the next one, there's like one called The Epic, then the one that will transport you, one if you're in a rush. So he has some kind of different, I don't know, like situational things. But the first one is The Entry Point. He says the quintessential Kingian ingredients: an author, protagonist, a main setting, a small town, reality ruptured by the otherworldly, can all be found in Salem's Lot. So not only are you throwing your hands up in victory, but I will too, because
that's what you had me read my first Stephen King book, dude. That's great.
In high school, for God's sake.
Yeah,
that was half a lifetime ago.
We're talking 20-something years ago. No, almost 20 years ago.
And it says it has the most representative of the author's early work, and where he first showcased his gift for crashing muscular American realism into gothic pulp. For those who may be alarmed by the sheer weirdness of King's later monsters, there is something comforting with the familiar features of the vampire Barlow, even if he does wreak havoc upon many characters that populate the lot. Barlow, he is a comforting character, isn't he?
No.
you almost agreed there.
I mean, like, if you're talking about it in the sense he's talking about it, yes.
Like, not being some crazy ass, like, whatever.
Pennywise, like, for God's sakes, man, like, let's not talk about a thing that can transform into anything that I'm afraid of, because...
Yeah. So Fluffy from Creepshow is what he'd turn into for you?
Probably. Yeah.
Or just some kind of werewolf. He would just, like, transition from different werewolves. Just constantly, just every time he came out,
the Wolfman that he transforms to in It isn't as scary for me. It's more beastie that gets me.
Okay, but what if he was that, and if you don't see him first, but you hear like that guttural growl?
I mean, yeah, that's absolutely terrifying, But as soon as I see like the Letterman jacket, it drops a notch.
Until he rips some other person apart in front of you, and then you're just like, all right, I take it back.
Drop dead of fright.
Yeah. So his next one is The Epic. He says The Stand was already a big book on publication in 1978, but in 1990, King restored more than 400 pages that had been cut from the original manuscript and changed the settings from the 1980s to the 1990s. The result was the complete and uncut edition of The Stand, a 1,200-page behemoth that turns the continental United States into a chessboard for the forces of good and evil. The story of a plague and post-apocalyptic tribalism is one that many somewhat masochistically turned to during the COVID-19 pandemic. But the book's lethal disease, Captain Trips, is only half the story. Oops, just accidentally messed up the text here. A way to make space for the titanic struggle to come. It's truly an immersive journey populated with some of King's most enduring characters, especially Randall Flagg, the Dark Man, who returns as an agent of chaos across many of King's fictional worlds. Got to give him credit here, Mr. Neil McRobert. Thank you for shouting out Randall Flagg, the hero of the story of The Stand there.
Not the hero of the story. Stop it. We're not doing this today. We're not. Just stop.
I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, Flag is the star of the show, The Stand.
Now, see, Ted, you say that, but that's different than what you just said. You can be the star and not be the hero. Silence of the Lambs is about Hannibal Lecter. He is not the hero, though.
He's a side dish in the movie.
He is.
What's he on the screen
hero.
for 10 minutes?
Best actor.
In a supporting role.
It's
about Buffalo Bill, and it's about Clarice Starling, and Hannibal Lecter's the side piece that, I mean, yes, he overshadows everyone, but he really isn't that big part of the movie.
That's exactly what Flag is. He's a side piece that overshadows. He's not in it very much.
Oh, he's in it plenty.
No.
Yeah.
No, he'd get supporting actor under Stu.
Ask Bobby Terry. Actually, honestly, is there a leading role in The Stand?
I'd go with Stu.
We've discussed that before. I don't really think there is, because I don't think there's anyone that really gets more coverage than anyone else. I mean, King said that he believed that Nick was the lead character, and only when he got to that bombing did he realize, like, oh shit, I'm gonna be killing my main character here. So yeah, I don't think there really is a main character, because I don't think that Stu holds any more weight than Harold or Franny or like Nick, like all these people. So I don't know. The Stand's an interesting one because I don't think you have that singular, like...
I think it's Stu's because that's where it starts and stops. We start with Stu, we end with Stu. Like, the very first character that is impacted by the superflu, the very first one that we meet after Campion, is Stu.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
Is it?
Well, the last one we meet is Flag.
Exactly, which is why he's not the main character.
Yeah, he said beginning and the end. It begins and ends. No, it ends with Flag on that beach.
That's an epilogue.
No. Let's see. And then Mike says Flag is in all their dreams. He's in almost every chapter. Yeah, he's all over the place.
The Dark Man.
And he
it's
also
a shadow. It can be played by a stunt double. It's not.
No,
Flag.
he also has that Jaws effect where when he's not on the screen, you're thinking about him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's the man, sir.
Don't
be coming at him with your slander.
But what you said was that he's the hero of the story. He is not the hero. We've talked about this. He is not a hero. He's listed as a villain. Everyone but you and your cult thinks he's a villain. So just stop it.
Oh man, I love how worked up you get about it.
He's not a hero.
Okay, so the next one he has is the one that will transport you. And this one he says, speaking of King's many worlds, the 8-volume Dark Tower series is the axis upon which many of them turn. Though the series focus is on Roland Deschain, the last of the fabled gunslingers, in his lifelong pilgrimage to the titular tower, it draws elements and characters from all corners of King's back catalog. It begins with the gunslinger, part Western, part fantasy, and all weird. That's a fun way to explain it.
I love that.
The first slim volume is an oddity and not everyone's taste, but it's worth persevering as it's the first step on a uniquely wondrous quest. So yeah, I could definitely agree with that. But yeah, I like that. Part Western, part fantasy, and all weird. That's a great one. So
that is a really good one.
Yeah, shout out to Neil. That's a good synopsis of the Gunslinger. Next one, he says, if you're in a rush, he says, though people tend to think of King as a writer with very long books, he's published more than a dozen collections of short stories and novellas. It's hard to pick the best, but Skeleton Crew just about edges it, showcasing unexpected range from the uniquely disturbing The Jaunt to the Blackley comic Survivor Type, which I don't know if that's comic. I mean, did you read Survivor Type as comedic in any way? Like even dark comedy? I didn't. But I guess he read it differently than me. Now, if I probably saw it on...
This guy's got a weird sense of humor.
I mean, if I saw it on screen, I might be a little bit more inclined to be laughing at it because I'm a horror fan, and that would be quite fun. And the next he says, or the tenor of the Reach. The collection is a bite-sized introduction to the magnificent, macabre imagination for Stephen King. And yeah, that's... Skeleton Crew is definitely a good one. You've read that one now, so...
Yeah.
You could definitely get that. You could definitely... second that one. Anything I missed in the chat here?
Mike showed up.
Mark. Mark. Hello,
Wrong
Mark.
name.
Yeah, Mark, Mike, Agamorphy. We've got a few people in the chat. Good to have you all with us. Next one, the one that deserves more attention. He says, when I interview horror authors, they frequently mention From a Buick 8 as one of their favorite King novels, yet it seems to have almost been forgotten by general readers. It's a small story about a rural police force and a car that's more than a car. In fact, it may be a gateway to somewhere else. It's a hokey premise, but it is delivered with such winning earnestness that you're unable to resist the charms of the station, its staff, and the subtle substitute family they create.
Yeah.
So, you read that one?
Yeah.
Okay. I have not yet. I've definitely been eyeballing it a little bit because we potentially have an adaptation on the horizon. So,
I thought it got backburnered and like canceled and everything. Didn't
I mean, it kind of did a few years back, but then we just saw some stuff from God, who was it that was
was it Boone?
no, it was the actor not is it Thomas Jane? I'm trying to remember somebody, but he just tweeted or Instagram something about it. We covered it not that long ago, probably 5 or 6 episodes back. It kind of made people think that maybe it's not backburnered anymore. So and it's definitely not on the horizon in a quick way by any means, but it is one that is kind of floating out there. So definitely an interesting one. Next one, it says, if horror is not for you, it says not everything King writes is horror. He's capable of capturing the beauty as well as the brutality of the human condition. Nowhere is more evident than 11/22/63. What sounds like a jaded idea, a man goes back in time to avert the death of JFK, is in fact peon to the lost American innocence. It's a science fiction, it's a thriller, and it has moments of extreme violence, but at its heart, 11/22/63 is a love story between a man out of time and a woman searching for her place. It also contains the greatest ending King ever wrote, which that's a bold statement, but
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great ending for sure. If you want to try reading King but don't want to tussle with ghosts, world-ending plagues, demonic clowns, this one will warm and break your heart. So, yeah, I mean, and you can't go wrong with 11/22/63.
Graphic violence?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the stuff in Derry with what's the one dude's dad
Well, I
is
guess
pretty
that's true.
violent. So, yeah, there's some violent
Man,
stuff
I
in
really
there.
don't think about the violence in 11/22/63 much, do I?
It gets overshadowed in the rest of it, but it is certainly there. Because I remember,
Then you got the ex-husband too.
yeah, there's some stuff in there that is definitely intense. Then the last one he has here is the masterpiece. He says King poured everything he had into his craft into it. His 1986 treatise on the nature of fear itself. At more than 1,100 pages, it's another whopper, but don't be put off. The story of kids battling evil in their small town and
Yep.
returning to fight it again decades later is King at the top of his game, and at his most frightening. Pennywise the Clown, devourer of children through the ages, is King's greatest contribution to the horror pantheon of monsters, which I don't think that could even be debated.
No, that's not even. There's no debate there. But interesting that he says this is the greatest horror film when King himself has said that Pet Sematary is. So he has a different opinion than King.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He says the novel's size, strangeness, and severity poses a challenge, yet despite its many cruelties, it is as much an ode to friendship and childhood imagination as it is a horror novel, which, yeah, it's, like I always say, it's a coming-of-age tale that just so happens to have a murderous, monstrous clown that's eating
Yeah.
children. So that sounds about right.
I've read every single one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think that any of those are necessarily poor choices for, depending on what people are looking for? If somebody was going through this and just like, I want an epic, then they jump into The Stand, they want to be transported away, so they jump into Dark Tower. Like, I don't think any of those are necessarily bad choices.
I don't know about from a Buick 8.
Yeah. And that one he says the one that deserves the most attention, more attention. So I guess that one would be like underrated.
Yeah.
And he's coming from the fact of through interviewing horror authors over the years, all these horror authors point to that one as one of their favorite things. So
I guess that's true. If it's underrated, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I want to read it to give it a whirl, but I don't know. I could see where he's coming from. I've seen that in like horror films and stuff too, where you got these certain films that just aren't as beloved as other ones. But then when you actually see these conventions and stuff, and you see him talk to all these like iconic horror directors or writers, and they all point to the same one, and you're just like, why do all these guys keep talking about this? And you go watch it, you're just like, oh yeah, this needs more attention.
This is actually pretty good.
Yeah, this should be up in the pantheon of some of these others. I've seen that in that realm for sure. Because sometimes, those guys behind the scenes or guys or gals behind the scenes have some opinions on things that are a little bit different than the standard stuff. And I do appreciate the fact that he at least threw something in there that wasn't obvious. Because I feel like the rest of those are pretty much like some of the most iconic King things. So
just to clarify, I'm not shitting on From a Buick 8. I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that. If we're talking about underrated King work, I don't know if I would necessarily say From a Buick 8 because I literally have never heard a bad thing about it. It may be lesser. It may be lesser known.
I don't think you've ever heard a non-constant reader talk about it, though. I think it's kind of like Dark Tower. We've talked about it before, right? Where King says, like, raise your hand if you've read one of my books. Now lower your hands unless you've read Dark Tower, and it's like 60% of the hands go down. So I think it shares a little bit in that realm with like Dark Tower, where it's like it's amazing, but like there's part of us that's like, God, I wish more non-constant readers would like get into this a little bit.
Which would be fine if the topic was lesser known king. Fine, then From
And
a Buick would be perfect. But
and that's what he's saying.
But saying that it's not as respected as it should be, I don't know if that's the right category for From a Buick 8. I don't think it is.
I mean,
Everyone who's read it loves it. Then,
but not a
it's
lot of people have read. It's like Dark
but
Tower.
again, that's not the topic. The subject is not, hey, lesser known king. It's saying that this one is underappreciated. It's not underappreciated.
No, he says it deserves more attention, which means not as read. You're interpreting that, I think, different than what he's going for there. Deserves more attention. That's what, we would say Dark Tower is the same way. It's like, God, if only more non-King fans read the Dark Tower, because like there's a lot of non-King fans that have read The Shining or It, or they've dabbled like one or two things, and it's just like
usually the stuff directly related to the Dark Tower is where you go.
Yeah.
Is where you see a lot of Salem's Lot connections because of Pierre Callahan and everything.
Yeah,
like
but
that.
you don't hear a lot of people like, oh, I'm not really a Stephen King fan. Oh, but I've read The Dark Tower. I mean, we have heard a few over the course of our show where people have read The Dark Tower first and then only became King fans after. So it's not completely unheard of, but it's just one of those things where it's like, God damn it, I wish, because Amazon probably would have picked it up if it was more popular than it is now. But
I mean, there's a reason they picked Lord of the Rings.
yeah,
It's the most popular fantasy of all time.
yeah. I mean, probably, yeah.
Can we say otherwise? I mean,
Depends on what you put in the realm of fantasy, but yeah, it's up there, especially because the movies, the Peter Jackson movies.
Yeah.
Without those, I don't know. I think literary wise, yes, but
literary wise, it's been around since what, the 50s?
But to move into like the larger pop culture
Yeah.
realm, like the Peter Jackson films are critical in that, certainly.
Exactly.
But they also picked Wheel of Time over Dark Tower, and I'm not going to shit on Wheel of Time, but I don't know if there's a lot of non-high fantasy fans that are into Wheel of Time. So come on now, should have picked Dark Tower, bastards.
I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that Hollywood still has an aversion to westerns.
It's not a western though. We
But
know that.
it looks like a western to an idiot Hollywood person who's only looking at the cover, if you will. You got people in cowboy hats riding horses with 6-shooters. I mean,
Yeah.
if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck,
Yeah, I don't know.
to them, I'm saying them. I'm playing devil's advocate here. When you look at Wheel of Time versus recent successes, Game of Thrones, and stuff like that, fantasy seems like it has a spot. I mean, Witcher's doing fantastic for Netflix,
Yeah.
which is fantasy.
Yeah.
You know,
But I think
and
right now
everything.
there's a lot of stuff in the streaming realm that are hitting that you never would have guessed would have hit.
No.
There's a lot of weird shit that's getting, green lights, and they're actually coming off successful. So I think we're in a perfect spot for and then not to mention Dune, I think that is still the moment where I was just like, yes, Dark Tower can work. Because I had my doubts. Like, I knew Dark Tower was great, but there is certain things that just maybe aren't adaptable. And I there was part of me like had some slight doubts in my head where I'm like, maybe Dark Tower's just unadaptable. And then Dune hit, and I was just like, no.
Okay, yeah, it can.
It could be done. Yeah, and it could be done brilliantly.
Especially since they chose not to do the classic Hollywood trope with Dune. I was shocked when Dune ended, and I looked up and I'm like, holy shit, I've been watching for over 2 hours?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't feel like 2 hours. It went by. The pacing was excellent.
Yeah.
The story was amazing. And it made me so engaged and so enraged that I don't have another one to go and watch instantly.
Yeah.
And that's what Dark Tower needs to be. Is there's enough there to last you for 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah.
Easy.
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
You could even skip Wizard and Glass and still do 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah.
And then have Wizard of Glass later as a prequel.
Yeah, we want series though.
Oh no, absolutely. If I could have my choice, it would be Flanagan on HBO Max, which would be HBO-ish.
Yeah, but HBO proper. Because HBO Max, there is technically a line of demarcation. Like, everything that's getting canceled right now was on the HBO Max side. But the HBO side, that's all safe, because that's like the best shit that's being made right now.
I'd take it in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Netflix, too, if Flanagan signed, got a contract with them that they couldn't cancel it and they had to, like, let it go for 5 seasons or whatever.
Make it all at the same time like they did with, what show was that?
I don't know if they could
They made 2 seasons back to back.
I was going to say, I don't know if they could do all, but I think they could do pretty big chunks, like do a couple seasons at a time, certainly. Okay, so the next one, this one is an interesting one. Stephen King's favorite miniseries that he has written is finally streaming, and it's a must watch. And this is by Eric Eisenberg from Cinema Blend on September 5th, 2022.
Will you change the cameras? Like, we can't see the whole tweet.
I did it not? That's weird.
Uh-oh.
I did that earlier. I don't know why it didn't. Oh, now it's changing.
Just a little bit delayed.
Huh. I don't know what's going on.
Hey, it's Tad.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure why. Something got messed up on OBS. They just did an update. And there's some stuff that got.
Dude, so many
finicky.
people have been talking about how bad this update is. For
Yeah,
OBS.
so sorry, our cameras are not sized properly.
Can you turn me off?
I guess I can go just slides. Let's see if that.
Just for a second, so that
Yeah.
we can read the whole tweet.
Yeah.
There we go.
So this is from Eric Eisenberg, September 5th, 2022, from Cinema Blend. He says 4.5 hours is adamantly a pretty big time commitment for entertainment. That's about 19% of a full day or 30% of a waking hours for an individual who gets 9 hours of sleep per night. If a person is going to commit to watching a single program that's that long, it better damn well be good. With that in mind, I couldn't more wholeheartedly recommend The Storm of the Century, the 1999 miniseries written by Stephen King that is now available on streaming for the first time. It says, as the world is now headed full bore into Halloween season, those with the Hulu subscription have been offered a wonderful and surprising gift. Storm of the Century is now available to stream on the streaming services library in the form that it was originally aired. 3 chapters that each run 85 to 90 minutes in length. The news that the miniseries is available to legally watch online is recently highlighted by Stephen King personally, who used his personal Twitter account to alert both fans. Alert fans and express his awesome appreciation for the work. And he tweeted, "Storm of the Century, my favorite of the miniseries that I've written, is now available on Hulu, uncut and unrated." So,
Nice.
yeah, pretty cool. That King is, I don't know, putting his name on that one as his favorite. That's an interesting pick.
It just really does make me want to go watch it.
Yeah, he's done The Shining, he's done The Stand. So that's an interesting one for him to pick. Yeah, I'm very interested to go throw it on. I know it's Ed Harris is involved in that one, and I also know from our extended quartet count that this is actually one that is not a novel. King actually wrote this as a screenplay. Basically. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if this actually covers it, so I won't go into it yet. So it says Stephen King calling Storm of the Century his favorite of the miniseries that he's written is amazing. And an opinion that he has shared before. He expressed the same sentiment back in December 2020 when the latest miniseries adaptation of The Stand was debuting on what is now called Paramount Plus. He praised the TV event for its authenticity, noting that it was filmed during the winter in South Harbor, Maine, and offered a particular appreciation to Colm Feore's performance as the demonic central antagonist. Storm of the Century is not based on a novel, but instead is an original teleplay by Stephen King that he wrote after having success writing miniseries adaptations of The Stand in 94 and The Shining in 97. The horror story begins in a small town of fictional Little Tall Island, a location King previously used in the setting of for Dolores Claiborne, and begins as a dangerous stranger named Andre Lineage, which is Colm Feore, arrives. The man immediately introduces himself as a threat by murdering an old woman with his cane, and then waits for the police to show up to the scene. But the danger he represents becomes more apparent as a horrible blizzard hits, and everyone on the island has to take shelter. In addition to Feore, the stellar cast of Storm of the Century also includes Tim Daly, Spencer Bresnan, Becky Ann Baker, Deborah Ferrantino, and Stephen King veteran actor Jeffrey DeMunn, which is one of the old man that is in the car in the mist.
Oh, okay.
So that can correlate with who it is if you don't know who he is offhand. And then it says in parentheses, Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile, and The Mist, and Julianne Nicholson.
He's not Brooks in Shawshank, is he?
No. Oh, Shawshank. No, he's not Brooks. Brooks
He's
is
one
way
of the
too
other
old.
ones, right?
Yeah, who is he in in Shawshank?
was his name
he's
again?
the attorney. He's the prosecutor at the beginning.
What was his name again?
Jeffrey D. Munn. Let's see, anything else I missed in the chat here? Let's see. Just talking about some Dune stuff. Okay. So it says it's a great addition to the Hulu library, which already has some great content. If you're a Stephen King fan, the miniseries 11/22/63 was the first ever King adaptation made directly for a streaming service, and subscribers can enjoy 2 seasons of Castle Rock, which was an ongoing series made as a love letter to King's stories. So yeah, if you got Hulu, go ahead and go check it out. I think I am going to.
I need to.
Yeah, I missed that one. That was kind of right in that realm where I wasn't really watching TV as heavily in '99. So where I watched like The Shining, I watched The Stand, I watched It, I watched all those. But by '99, I think I was just out of the age range where I just wasn't as interested in watching.
Especially since I'm reading
stuff on
Dolores
TV.
Claiborne right now for the first time.
Yeah.
So it's just perfect. Like, oh.
Yeah, lines up pretty well. Let's see, anything I missed in the chat that was Dark Tower related or Stephen King related. Agamorphy says Rose Red and Kingdom Hospital are comparatively lesser in quality. I remember Rose Red a bit. I don't think I ever watched Kingdom Hospital.
We watched. You had me watch Rose Red, didn't you?
Yeah, because that came
where
out.
King has a cameo as a pizza guy.
Yeah,
that's the first time I ever saw Stephen King.
Yeah.
Ever.
Okay.
Like that's before I watched the Stand miniseries. That's before I watched anything else or saw any interviews with him or anything like that. We watched Rose Red. That was a weird show. I only remember 2 parts of it. Someone getting dragged into a pantry and him delivering a pizza.
Yeah.
That's it. That's literally what I remember from that show.
I don't remember I don't remember much of it, honestly. So, that was our first job, I think.
Yeah.
When that came out.
Yeah.
So that was right around the turn of the century, 2001, 2002.
Yeah, you talked about it. You're like, "Oh, yeah, this is Stephen King, like what you're starting to read and everything like that. Here, check this out." And I watched it and I'm like, "The fuck did I just watch, dude?" Like this isn't Salem's Lot. This isn't The Stand. Like what is this?
Yeah. It's what happens. It was something new. We just got pulled into it, and I don't know. And then King's only like tertiarily involved in it. It wasn't even like a King novel or anything. Kind of a weird project. I thought about it not too long ago. I thought about maybe going and revisiting it, but I don't even know if it's available anywhere.
Yeah.
So next up, we've got basically a little recap story on Fairy Tale. It doesn't have any spoilers necessarily. She mentions a couple things. This is from Emily Burnham from the Bangor Daily News on September 6, 2022. And I felt this would be kind of a fun little one to cover. Her just, base kind of review is maybe kind of a way for us to talk about it a little bit and promote it as well. If you haven't bought Fairy Tale yet, I would recommend it. I finished it now, and I highly recommend it. I think it's a great addition to the King.
It was fantastic
universe. Yeah,
we're
really
going to talk
loved
about it a little bit later, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to dive into it deeper, way down, a ways down the road. Future episode or whatever. This is just kind of like non-spoilery.
No, just us finishing it. Like, we're not going to talk about it later in the episode or anything.
No.
Okay.
No, this will be the non-spoilery conversation on Fairy Tale for this episode. She says, and I also got to say there's some legitimacy by the fact that it's the Bangor Daily News, right?
Yeah.
Just, I don't know. There's a number of them. There's like USA Today. There's New York Times. There's a number of them that I could have picked, but I decided, let's go ahead and pick the Bangor Daily News. That feels more more legit. Yeah. Indeed. So she starts off, says, one of the most purely enjoyable experiences I've ever had reading was in 2006, when over the course of a few breathless months, I read all 7 books of the Stephen King's Dark Tower series. I was swept away by King's thrillingly rendered fantastic worlds full of creatures, both terrifying and delightful, bursts of violence, humor, and melodrama all in equal measures, and an epic battle between good and evil that never seemed foregone as to the winner. So that's awesome. Imagine just being able to cram the Dark Tower in a couple months, that would be fun. And then she says, I got the same feeling reading King's latest novel, Fairy Tale, published Tuesday. It's a return to the fantasy form for the novelist who in more recent years has tended towards detective tales, science fiction, inflected horror. It's a sweeping yet intimate story about a boy and his dog, the fantastic hidden world he uncovers, and the choices he must make. In the book, Charlie is a high school senior in rural Illinois, is coming to terms with his childhood trauma after his mother died when he was still in grade school, and his father spent years afterwards trying to drink himself to death before finally getting sober. So yeah, I don't know, is any comments you want to make there before move on? So she just kind of recaps just some basics of it, kind of the same stuff that King gave us before the book came out.
Yeah.
Kind of just some rough ideas of whatever. It says, one fateful day, Charlie discovers a mysterious neighbor, Mr. Bowditch, that's the first time I've seen that name written. Because I've had the audiobook. So I remember thinking that. I'm like, how is that spelled? I wonder.
Yeah.
That's the audiobook side of things now.
Yep.
Has fallen off a ladder and broken his leg. Charlie soon becomes his caretaker, and as he recovers, develops a close relationship with the grumpy old man and his beloved dog Radar. So,
I love that name.
yeah, that's. I mean,
There's a connection there for me.
I mean,
so.
I couldn't. I mean, he even mentions MASH in the book. So,
He does.
Yeah. But even if he hadn't, like, you can't have someone or something called Radar, and I'm not going to think of Radar from MASH. So.
Yeah, which just has a special connection for me because we did MASH in high school and I played Radar.
Yeah.
On stage, so that's just like, hey, all right. It's
Yeah.
like, it was really special for me. I don't know why, but it just like really connected, and I loved it. I loved it. And the fact that also Radar was a girl and it kept coming up, just like,
Yeah.
oh, is he nice? It's a girl. It's
Yeah.
a girl. Like, so.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I thought that was funny.
Yeah, and then she goes on and says, but this is a Stephen King novel, and there's much more to Mr. Bowditch than meets the eye, which that just seems about right for a King novel, right?
It sounds so ominous when it's talking about a King character, like just like I want to like turtle up and be like, ugh.
Yeah, but it's true. How many Stephen King characters are that way, where it's just like they
All
all
of
look
them.
they all look
All
normal,
of them.
but then you get deeper and it's like, wait a minute, there's something going on.
Yeah.
here. Whether it's superpowers or The Shine or
They're
whatever.
running a meth lab or
Yeah. It says, though King certainly begins dropping hints early on in the story. In his backyard, there's a shed, and in that shed is a tunnel. The tunnel leads to another world, a world which beautiful princesses speak their horses, curses turn whole populations gray and deformed, and a giant rules the land through cruelty and force. And then that, of course, reminds me of the cover, which I remember when we unveiled that. I don't even know how many episodes back that was now.
Yeah.
But I remember when we first got the cover, I think all of us kind of had the same thoughts where it's like, wait, tunnel? And I think it mentioned like another world or something in King's original synopsis, or just like and then it says, as with several King teenage boy protagonists before him, Jake from the Dark Tower series, Jack from the Talisman, and even Bill from It, Charlie is thrust into a dangerous adventure. How he fares depends on how he chooses to conduct himself. Will he do the right thing? Will he succumb to temptation and violence? Will our hero save the princess and the realm? Sure, and he said, and this is actually interesting as she mentions this. Sure, there's a few brief passages that draw attention away from the otherwise mesmerizing plot, like Charlie's seemingly preternatural intelligence and common sense, and a bit of dialogue that I just know I've never heard any millennial teen utter. But those things are quickly forgotten as the scope of the story comes into focus. I will say, King writes children wonderfully, but I think sometimes his like teenagers are getting a little bit rougher, just because I think he's so far removed from like relevancy and stuff. Because there was a few times where I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if because like I've heard young people like say like on Twitter and stuff where they're like, I won't watch a movie that came out before 1980.
really,
Things like that. Yeah, some even more. I've even seen somewhere like nothing before 1990, and I'm just like, dude, you know how many movies you're missing out on? And it just,
I mean, just off the top of my head, all 3 original Star Wars, all 3 Indiana Jones, and all 3 Back to the Future.
yeah. And
I mean, come on.
But I think when it comes down to it, I try to put myself in their perspective, and I'm like, for us, that would have been like the black and white era, right? Like kind of those ones that were there's a certain line of demarcation where you're just like, I don't want to watch black and white movies as a kid, right? Like maybe you had more exposure to them because of your dad, but in general, you may not have liked black and white as much because it's just like, I don't know. We interpret that as maybe lesser than a color movie. So
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on John Wayne westerns that were a lot of them were in black and white. So, my mom didn't care for it very much.
Yeah.
which is where
I think Wizard
My
of Oz was the furthest I went to black and white, and I only because I knew it was
really
going to go
I've
away.
never seen that in black and white.
Well, no, the very first
Yeah.
bit of the scenes are in black and white
Oh,
before
that's-
she
oh,
goes
gotcha.
before she goes to Oz, and then it's color. So
Oh, okay.
that's
right.
that,
Dude, it's been so long since I've watched that movie. I forgot that the first part of it is in black and white.
yeah, that's probably as a kid that was the closest I would get to black and white because I knew and I'd be counting down to the moment where it finally went color because I don't know, I just had that kind of feeling. I'm like, maybe that's the way these younger Gen Z, Gen Y, whatever, maybe that's how they feel.
Yeah.
They just pick a certain spot and like you can see an age, right? You know what an 80s movie looks like versus a 90s movie or more modern. So it's like maybe for them it's that. It's just whatever. But yeah, it's just so and again, this is a minor nitpick. There was a few times where I was like, really? Like, I think King's good with like younger kids because
Yeah.
younger kids have a certain way, but teenagers, they're a mystery once you hit a certain age. And
True.
King's been away
and
from
let's
that
be
age for a long
perfectly
time.
honest, teenagers nowadays are not the same as when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
Which are not the same as what teenagers were in the 90s, which is not the same as what teenagers...
Yeah, change is constant.
Every teenager from different decades are different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You have the teenagers that were back in the, the baby boomer era that were working full-time jobs and going to school.
Yeah.
And then you got the hippie ones, and then you had us who worked part-time.
Yeah.
And it's just different,
And Mark mentions 12 Angry Men. Imagine missing out on that. And I agree. That's one of my all-time favorite movies now. But it took probably high school or later before I started to accept black and white movies.
Yeah.
And I remember
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List. Yeah, but I
How
wouldn't.
can you pass up on that just because it's in black and white?
I wouldn't have tried to watch that as a kid, though. You know what I mean? Because it was black and white. That would have turned me off as a younger kid. So it was because there was just this light switch that hit for me in like high school at some point, and right around the time I graduated, that I was just way more open to different things, and that's about the time that I was more open to black and white. And I think that's about the time I watched 12 Angry Men, which is one of my favorite movies. So agreed. Even though that was where my mind was at as a kid, I was definitely wrong. But then again, I don't think I could have appreciated 12 Angry Men as a kid as much as I did as, an adult or young adult. I mean, by the time I graduated, I was already 18. So, yeah. And then it says, where did I lost my spot here. I won't share too many details about what happens once Charlie crosses from our world to another, but I will say that I was left deeply satisfied by the entire book from start to finish, gobbling up the story like a delicious stew that Dora, the shoes woman, serves. It's my favorite King book since 2011's 11/22/63, a fact I knew within the first 100 pages, and not just because I immediately fell in love with Radar, the brave, loyal, and sensitive German Shepherd for whom Charlie's risking his life. Any dog lover will likely empathize. And then she finishes off by saying Stephen King said on the book jacket that he wrote Fairy Tale during the pandemic lockdown when he asked himself, what could you write that would make you happy? If writing this beautiful, exciting, and touching fairy tale did the trick for him, then I imagine what it will do for you as a reader.
Yeah.
And I can't agree more. I like I said, I was really cherry picking to try to find the perfect article that didn't spoil too much, didn't go into too many plot details, but that would give us the opportunity to talk about it. Because I know you finished it,
Yep.
I finished it. I know there's some people that don't jump on them as quick as all of us, like you or I do. That's totally fine. Everyone's different. I mean, hell, if I hadn't have finished Doctor Sleep when I did, I wouldn't have picked it up on day one. But I literally, like the weekend before Fairy Tale came out, I actually went out of my way to listen to Dr. Sleep to finish it so that I was done. But it was a deliberate choice because I don't listen to audiobooks a lot at home. Like I do it a lot when I'm out driving, when I'm working, stuff like that. But if I'm at home doing stuff, I don't hit Audible a lot. But the weekend before Fairy Tale, I was like, okay, I've only got like 3 hours left of Dr. Sleep. Let me get through it. Throw on a video game, through Dr. Sleep on.
I found it's really refreshing to listen to an audiobook when you're playing a certain type of game. We just talked about this at work the other day. You were playing Tetris when you listened to it, right?
Yeah.
That's a game you don't need to really listen to dialogue or anything like that. I have a couple games that I played enough now that I don't need to listen to the story.
Yeah.
That I can grind out levels.
Yeah.
And stuff and play without having to pay attention to the story. I know the story.
Yeah.
Backwards and forwards. I've played it enough times. So
yeah.
I do the same thing every now and then where I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to listen to my book and grind out some levels on this game.
And I will say, after I finished though, and I got into Fairy Tale, there were times I was listening to it at home more than I normally would. Because Fairy Tale pulled me into the point where it was one of those you get home from work and you sit in your car for another 20 minutes listening to it because it's just. It's hard to put down. So, highly recommend it.
Last time we recorded, I sat in your driveway listening to it for about 5 minutes before coming in.
Yeah.
So
Emily has a great. I don't know where I rank it in terms of she's saying it's her favorite since 11/22/63. I really enjoyed it, but I've enjoyed a lot that's come out recently.
There's
so
a lot in between 11/22/63 and now that I would be like,
that's a tough choice, man. I'm trying to think because even the two from last year, Later and Billy Summers,
Dude.
I loved the fuck out of those two. So it's hard with that one. The Outsider I loved a lot. The Hodges trilogy I enjoy quite a bit. Doctor Sleep is inside of 11/22/63.
went through the keyhole.
Yeah, barely went through the keyhole as well. So yeah, that's a tough choice for me.
Yeah, if it bleeds.
But she also mentions that she read the 7 books in that couple months. I wonder if she's even read Went Through the Keyhole yet.
Yeah.
So that's that. Imagine being there, sir, where you still have a Dark Tower book that you haven't read yet.
Oh. It'd be nice.
Oh, that would be glorious. But let's be honest, even if King dropped a 1,000-page Dark Tower book next year, we'd be through it in like a week.
Oh yeah.
Like, I
Ring. Hello. Yep, boss. I can't come into work. I'm sick.
yeah, I'm sick for a week because a new Dark Tower book. And dude, can you imagine if a 1,000-page Dark Tower book? Let's just
stop
imagine.
it.
Let's
Tad.
just imagine
Tad, stop it.
an sized Dark Tower book.
Battle of Jericho Hill.
Jericho Hill. I
The
mean,
Fall of Gilead. Imagine if it was just called The Fall of Gilead.
the Tech Corporation. Do the Tech Corporation stuff too. Mix that in there.
Have it go back and forth between the two. The rise of the Tech Corporation at the same time of the fall of Gilead.
Yeah.
The parallel.
Yeah, the Godfather 2 thing,
know.
basically,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I agree. Definitely something I would sign up for tomorrow if I could.
I'm signing up now.
I mean, we know Holly's coming next, but maybe there's a second book next year. I don't know. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I'd be all for it. So next one is a little bit of sad news. This hit the internet. I'm sure you've already heard, but Talisman author Peter Straub dies at 79. The smartest and most fun person, and this is by Barbara Van Denberg from the USA Today on September 6th, 2022. And I actually, in fact, I know you heard about it at
We
work
talked about it
because I did tell you that there was actually some speculation over the last couple of years that they may get the third Talisman book.
Yeah.
And I think Peter Straub was interviewed, and he just says he didn't think it would happen. It just didn't seem like it was ever going to line up with he and King. So again, because it's tough, both of them are busy or whatever. And now he's passed away. So it starts off by saying author Peter Straub, who is best known for his popular horror and supernatural fictions, including 2 novels co-written with Stephen King, has died at 79. His daughter Emma Straub, who was also a best-selling author of a popular fiction, shared the news on Instagram Tuesday and says Peter Francis Straub, smartest and most fun person in every room he was ever in. 3/2/43 through 9/4/22. How lucky we were. There aren't enough words in the world. Emma Straub wrote. So. It goes on and says Straub, a lifelong reader and writer, was born in Milwaukee, first achieved widespread success with his spooky 1979 novel Ghost Story, which was adapted into a 1981 film starring Fred Astaire and Allison Krieg. Many supernatural and horror novels followed, including the most popular 1984's The Talisman, about a boy traveling to a parallel universe to save his mother, and a 2001 sequel, Black House, both which were co-written by horror juggernaut King. Which, that's an interesting way to put it, horror juggernaut.
Do they mention any novels for him?
No, not right here anyway. Says in 2001, an interview with USA Today book critic Bob Minsheimer about his partnership with King, Straub said, quote, "Writing is a deeply private and intimate activity. One's own style is achieved at some cost. You don't want anyone else in your workshop playing with your tools unless you trust him." Which is interesting because, again, I still am like perplexed, like how does a co-writing thing work? Because when it comes to like a novel, I just don't know how that works with 2 writers. Like,
can I give you a little bit of insight? King talks about it with Owen from Sleeping Beauties.
Yeah.
They have an interview with them at the end of the audiobook.
Okay.
They talk about it. What they do is they take turns, is how they did it. I don't know if that's how everyone does it.
Yeah.
But that's how King and Owen did it, is
King,
that...
he mentioned that with an interview with the Gwendy book, too. So maybe
it's Owen that he wrote that with.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But the Gwendy novels, so he had something similar. He said with those. So I don't know. Maybe he did the same thing with Straub. It just it perplexes me because I don't know. It just seems like a novel, such a singular thing that to see it handed off back and forth is like
maybe
how does that even work?
Maybe we should write a novel.
And what if those styles clash? I just my brain hurts thinking about the logistics of it. Is all.
Yeah.
It says King, whose new fantasy novel Fairy Tale went on sale Tuesday, took to Twitter to express his condolences on a bittersweet day. And this is from King's Twitter. It says, quote, "It's a happy day for me because Fairy Tale is published. It's a sad day because my good friend and amazingly talented colleague and collaborator Peter Straub has passed away. Working with him was one of the greatest joys of my creative life." And that was King's tweet. That's actually how I found out. I was just jumping on Twitter at work, pulled that up because I figured there'd probably be some kind of thing about Fairy Tale, and then that tweet went that way, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
Then it says in a 2002 interview with Minsheimer, Straub says that he resented, quote, being stuffed into the category of a genre writer, as if genre writing is automatically second rate and can become literary only by transcending the genre. and he wished the critics would judge writers by their quality of their writing and not just the subject matter. So that sounds about right. But it sounds like he actually vocalized it more than like King does. Seems like King just kind of throws his hands up like, yeah, people always call me a horror writer, but whatever.
What are you gonna do?
Can't fight it.
Yeah.
And then the last bit here says Straub was a relatable presence on the USA Today's best-selling book list, with 7 of his novels spending 68 weeks on the list. His highest-ranking book was Black House, which went as high as number 2 in 2001.
Wow.
So I didn't know that. Yeah, I mean, I just read Black House not too long ago.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it's hard when you're reading a book. You don't really get the context of like how well it did in sales and stuff. But USA Today, I mean, I know it's not New York Times best-selling list, but USA Today has their own, and it went to number 2, which is the highest that Straub had. I wonder if King's ever got number 1 on that list. But Robert says, Peter, I can only imagine the torture you would endure by co-writing a story with Tad.
Oh, that'd be bad. So here we are talking about the survivors of this horrible bombing, and a werewolf breaks in. It's like, Tad, stop it. This is a real life story. There's no werewolves. Just stop.
Who says werewolves aren't real, sir?
They're not. Stop it.
Is that just what you tell yourself to help yourself sleep at night?
Yes.
That werewolves aren't real?
Yes.
And they can't get you?
That's right.
There would be a symbol monkey showing up at some point, you know.
Just stop.
Probably throw some emojis in there just to really mess with you. Which, thank you, Robert, for throwing an emoji in there as well. And Agamorphy, I see one from earlier on, too. So thank you guys for throwing some emojis in there, making sure Peter's all happy and content in his role here at Dark Tower Palaver. Just throw an emoji out there, Peter. See, it'll make you feel better.
Let me go find one real fast.
Okay, so this next one is really interesting and timely. But yeah, actually, before we jump on though, I will say, rest in peace, Peter Straub. Hopefully, comfort. His family's has all the comfort and love that they need to cope with it. I know it's definitely hard to lose someone, including his daughter. There, you can see it from her words that losing her dad is a tough thing. So, rest in peace to him. What are you emojiing there, sir?
That. That's it.
Just the what do you even call those things?
It's like the cross out,
Yeah,
like the Ghostbusters.
But there's like no good name for it. That's
it's
like
the Ghostbusters.
Because I always said like the no smoking thing, like the circle with the line, like no smoking Ghostbusters.
It's the no symbol.
Yeah, I feel like there should be a name for it. I don't know. It just feels like every time I have to talk about, because obviously there's people listening to the podcast too that can't see the chat. So but it's just one of those weird things that I've always dealt with where it's like, what do you call that stupid thing? Yeah, Mike, one of us. See, there you go, Peter. All right, so this one's timely and interesting and fun. The Stanley Hotel.
I don't know if it's that scares me. I don't like when you say that it's fun. I don't like it. I don't like it.
The Stanley Hotel has recreated one of The Shining's most terrifying scenes. And this is
Whoa, wait a minute. You want us to stay there?
Oh yeah, we will.
Nuh-uh.
Oh yes. This is from John Wenzel from the Denver Post on September 13th, 2022. Oh, yeah, sir. You already agreed to it. Now that this is being added after the fact. Now, it's serendipitous that this happened after we got you agreed to it.
No. See, that's not ironclad. That's not like contract or anything like that. I can back out if I want to. And if they're recreating a scene from The Shining, no thank you.
So it says, director Stanley Kubrick's 1980 take on Stephen King's The Shining, which was inspired by King's creepy stay at Estes Park Stanley Hotel, contains a scene so disturbing that its mere mention sends fans into fits of terror. Any guesses? I know this for a fact, 'cause I know there's some people I know.
It's the bathtub, right?
There's some people I know that are horror fans even that like I'll mention this scene and they get like heebie-jeebies and stuff. So
it's the bathtub, right?
Going on to the next section here. And then Mike saying that's a beautiful looking hotel. And then Robert says the bar at the Stanley would be awesome. Oh, we'll let you know.
You will.
Next year.
I'm staying home.
We'll have a live stream of one of our shows straight from room 217 at the Stanley. The one thing I was reading some reviews, though, apparently the only thing about the room is there's a lot of noise because all hours of the night people be coming up, taking pictures, even knocking on the door and stuff because it's
dude, you're gonna fuck with so many people, aren't you?
Oh no, the only thing so we're gonna warn you now when we get to that episode and we're there, just know there may be some disturbances, because we will be recording from room 217, so there may unfortunately be some noise in the distance. And I don't blame people. Like, I've seen some reviews where people are like, oh god, these people are so fucking. I'm like, dude, you signed up for it, man. You got room 217. You had to know that shit was going to happen. So, Mike says, I would not stay there for New Year's Eve. No, it's the 4th of July is the one you want to be there for. That's the picture at the end of The Shining. Because remember, the way that it's portrayed.
Is it?
Yeah, 4th of July. Because you wouldn't be there for New Year's Eve because you wouldn't be able to get
closed.
up there. Yeah,
It's
it'd be closed.
Yeah.
It says that would be the bathroom scene, in which lead character Jack Nicholson, enters the fictional Overlook Hotel, a cursed room 237, and more specifically, its color-saturated mid-century modern bathroom. There he finds a silent naked woman in a bathtub who emerges dripping to embrace our hypnotized Torrance.
Yeah.
It says you won't be shocked to hear it doesn't end well, but it does imprint itself permanently on the gray matter, which is why Denver's MOA architecture relishes the opportunity to recreate the set in a screen-accurate detail. Now guests of the hotel's Shining-related tours can step into that bathroom for themselves.
Oh boy.
So this is going to be great. The space is part of a larger renovation of the hotel's caretaker cottage that commemorates both the hotel's real and fictional history, according to the MOA Association Taylor Cole, the company's strategic growth manager. So this is this isn't the Stanley itself. It's like a secondary building, the caretaker's cottage. This is him talking now. He says the first floor is a time machine. Step inside and be whisked back to 1912 when the hotel's first caretaker moved in with his family, Coe wrote. The design team spared no detail to achieve this effect. Look closer and even the smallest details stand up to scrutiny, from period brass air registers to hand-carved crown molding. So they've completely built the first floor to look like it would have in 1912, which is insane.
That's crazy.
That's really cool. It says the historic restoration completed under lead designer Tina Kivalu is now part of Caretaker's Cottage / the Shining Suite, an hour-long theatrical experience at the Stanley. The tour combines Lambourne's Caretaker's Cottage, as it is called, with all kinds of Shining lore. Guests cannot stay in the cottage, but they can move through and take and snap photos. And then, quote, if you're bent on ignoring Dick Halloran, proceed upstairs, Coe wrote, referencing the fictional head chef of the Overlook who teaches young Danny Torrance how to harness his telepathic powers, a.k.a. the Shine, and who warns the caretaking Torrance family of the hotel's ghostly malevolence, which no, he doesn't. That is not correct. But then the quote here, the second floor leaves history behind and drops you into the disorienting, uneasy space somewhere between cinema and the designer's imagination, according to the press statement. That includes a movie set bathroom, but also touches like the Hicks hexagon pattern, the famous red, brown, and orange hallway carpet created by David Hicks in one of the bedrooms. There's also a bedroom imagined to be the Grady twins' bedroom, where the creepy ghost sisters who appeared to the Torrance family once lived. So there's some creative license too. But yeah, they have a fully screen accurate created bathroom of room 237. They've got a room for the twins, and then there's the carpet throughout. So yeah, just imagine being able to step right into that bathroom.
I'm not going.
Anything I missed in the chat here?
Yeah.
What did I?
Robert says they probably have a bar stool with Jack's seat only, like Lemmy at the Rainbow. And then Mike says he would sit there just to test the fates. I would not.
No?
If that's Jack's seat. I don't want no fire axe coming through my door in the middle of the night.
Speaking of which, the Shining-themed renovation adds to the Stanley's attempt to fashion itself as the home of Rocky Mountain horror, including a recently acquired prop axe from the Shining production, which sold at auction in May for $175,000. It was then anonymously donated for a display at the Stanley Film Center, a sprawling film and music entertainment complex that's been in development for years on the Stanley property. No surprise, the hotel, which regularly hosts theme events and multi-night music performances, was named the first of America's most haunted hotels by Trips to Discover digital magazine last week. And then the last little bit here is the information on the tour of the Caretaker's Cottage. The hour-long Caretaker's Cottage tour is limited to ages 8 and up, which I don't know why you do that. I mean, got to bring the kid. Oh, well, probably 'cause you don't want the kids ruining stuff more than anything. And it costs $30 per person. Advanced reservations for parties up to 10 people are required at the Stanley Hotel, and there's a whole web address you can go to there. So if you're going to the Stanley, I'll throw in the show notes the link to that as well. So if you want to reserve your tour for the Caretaker's Cottage, we'll make sure to live stream, like with our phones from in there when we next spring or so when we.
Mike says Tad will set up the elevators to soak Peter in blood and then does a blood emoji. Robert says Tad would lock Peter in the pantry and does a laughing emoji. I'm not going with you. You can forget that. You're talking about staying in room 217. I'm talking about staying in a different hotel, like across the city from you. Like, no, I'll take an Uber and go stay over there. Like, I'm not doing it.
And then what? Just come back for the recording?
Yep. As little time in that hotel as possible.
Oh man, it's gonna be a fun time.
No,
we'll get a date hammered out.
Dude, okay, can we talk about this for a second?
What?
Or do we not want to give anything away?
What?
The fact that we've actually looked at this and we found out that room 217 is potentially available when we want to go, but it's a single.
Yeah.
Which means that you would be staying in that room. You've already said that you want to stay in it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Which means that I would have to get a room in that hotel by myself.
Yeah.
And stay in a room by myself.
You wouldn't be in the 217, though.
No, but I'm in that hotel by myself. And you think I'm just going to be okay with that?
Why not? It's just a hotel.
It's not just a hotel, sir. You know that.
Oh, sure it is.
Oh.
That's just superstition, sir. And then Robert asks, you guys still doing it in Las Vegas? Yeah, I've actually been keeping tabs on that.
There's been nothing.
They haven't really given us anything solid yet. They originally said it would be hitting in the fall, which now officially we're in fall. So I don't know.
Nothing.
I don't know. For me, though, when people say fall, for me, I always picture November.
Really?
Yeah, that's fall for me.
I always picture October.
Because I feel like October is like more like Halloween, like whatever. September's a middle ground. Yeah, for me, when you say fall, I don't know why I always picture November. So we still have some time, but I'm hoping that at some point we'll be getting some dates and some updates. But last time I looked, it still just said fall. But yes, we do want to go down to Randy Land at some point and go to the experience escape rooms. What, sir? We want to stay at the MGM Grand too, right? That's where our flag's set up.
Sure, why not?
Oh man, let's see yeah, the plan is to do that, Peter. Except what Caw has in store for you, and then has a wheel there. So dirty old Caw, right, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, so next up is an interesting one because as I was reading Fairy Tale, I was like, you know what's weird? Because what was it? The Institute that signed its film adaptation before it even came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I know it's only been out for a couple days, but it just seems like it's lagging a little bit. Like, is there no movie going to happen for Fairy Tale? It's only been 2 days, but still, like the way King goes, he sells it before it comes out. So,
yeah.
But we have news on that. Hot Package is the headline here. Paul Greengrass to adapt and direct Stephen King's new bestseller, Fairy Tale.
There it is.
And this is by Mike Fleming Jr. from Deadline on September 15th, 2022. It says exclusive. How's this for a powerhouse pairing? Paul Greengrass will adapt, direct, and produce a feature adaptation of Fairy Tale, the best-selling novel by Stephen King that Scribner just published. King is a fan of Greengrass's films and has granted him the option at the usual $1 against a healthy back end for an epic tale that follows a 17-year-old boy who inherits the key to a terrifying world where good and evil are at war. The stakes could not be higher for that world and ours as the journey into the mystic roots of human storytelling. It is the world creation that King so excels at.
That's true.
And then he says, from what I've heard, the property will be shopped immediately, and I expect there to be no shortage of bidders as studios and streamers look for branded titles with global theatrical tentpole potential, especially in the skilled handsets of a filmmaker like Greengrass. Greengrass and Greg Goodman will produce the film. The author and filmmaker confirms the alliance, and this is a quote from Stephen King. He says, needless to say, I'm a Paul Greengrass fan and think that he's a wonderful choice for this film, said King. Added Greengrass, Fairy Tale is a work of genius, a classic adventure story, and also disturbing contemporary allegory. Greengrass most recently directed the underrated 2020 picture News of the World, which is the one where Tom Hanks was like a mail carrier, but like ancient, like not ancient, but like, you know, like what was the name? What are the name of those the original, like the ones that would go west carrying mail. There's
Pony Riders.
Pony Express.
Pony Express.
Like not necessarily he's a Pony Express because he's got like a wagon and shit, but
Yeah.
like I think he has his kid with him or something.
It's the.
Did you see the trailer for that?
It's the Stagecoach.
Yeah.
It's.
You saw the trailer for that though, yeah. It didn't get
No.
a lot of. It didn't get a lot of marketing, so
No.
you may have totally missed it. But he did that movie. Let's see, and then Robert says that's cool. Really, something to look forward to. Mike says Greengrass is working on another adaptation in 1984. Yeah, I saw that when I went to his IMDb.
Oh, cool.
And then I also, because I pulled it up to see because I knew him, I saw his face. I'm like, I've seen that guy's face before. I know the name, but I couldn't picture what it was. So I looked him up. He's directed The Bourne Supremacy, Captain Phillips, another Tom Hanks one, and Jason Bourne. Those are among various things. Those are the kind of the ones that stood out to me as. Whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely has some credibility, has a
Couple
pedigree
different
there.
Bourne films.
Yeah, some Bourne films. Captain Phillips is pretty well regarded
Yeah.
overall. Like that was that one. I thought that would just be kind of a mid-tier movie, but that one got a lot of hype. I still see people talk about it at times where it's like, man, this movie doesn't get enough respect. And I haven't seen it. I think I own it, but haven't watched it.
Of course you do.
What?
The amount of movies that are still like in wrap on your case. There's one right there in your C section. I don't know what that is. There's a couple over there that you probably haven't even ever watched. You gave me one this year. We finished the show and you're like, here, I bought the steel book of this one. I'm like, this is still fucking wrapped in plastic, Tad. What the hell? You're like, I just never got around to watching it.
Yeah, I mean, all I know is if the internet goes down and I don't have access to Netflix, I'm like, hey, I want to watch a movie. Guess what? Chances are I might have it. Now it might be wrapped and I might have to open it.
Yeah.
But I have it. So, or if they pull it off of there for some reason. So
Yeah. Mark says, I wonder who will play Charlie.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I mean, he's like 17-ish, so I think he could. It's easily you could
Just pick one of the kids from It. I mean, they're
Yeah.
about the right age.
They'd be
now.
about the right age now. Yeah,
Yeah.
but especially, and who knows when it'll happen. I mean, he's got that 1984 thing on his IMDb. I don't know like where he's prioritizing it, whether he's going to do that first and then Fairy Tale. I mean, we know. I guess I can also pull up the board here. So let me go over to the
Yeah.
slides only, so we're not blocking it. You know what I just thought about? I actually think the slide, our camera thing is my fault. Because on the last book club, I actually increased our camera sizes, and I think I may have accidentally done it on the wrong slide.
Tad.
So
Say
maybe
it ain't so.
maybe my fault actually. Now that I think about it,
You know what? I think you actually deserve this one. Hashtag Tad is terrible.
I disagree, sir.
You don't think you deserve it? Wow.
No, I never
Wow.
deserve it.
Never
deserve it.
never take responsibility. I see how it is.
I don't deserve it. I'm a lovable character.
No.
So the next one is very fun. So Robin Firth.
I never like when you say fun. It just makes me scared.
Why?
Because it's never fun. Like the Stanley Hotel, having things that make me go, ugh.
You don't want to just walk into that bathroom and
No.
just look
No.
around. Do you think the way it's designed? Do you think the curtains open or closed?
Oh, closed. And they probably have like a blow-up doll or something in there to freak you out. It's just like, there's someone in there.
Your kid's over 8 now, so
Stop
you
it.
can always bring her.
Stop it.
You don't have to let her watch The Shining first, so she understands.
Mm-mm.
Oh, I think this is the year, sir. This is the year I finally break your will and have you let your daughter watch a horror movie for spooky season.
I've already talked to her about it. We've talked
Poltergeist, Child's Play. There's got to be something.
about this. I don't know. I think we're going to go with Jaws.
That's not a horror movie.
It is a horror movie.
No, it's
Stop
not.
it.
No, it's not. But so Robin Firth, obviously, she's done a lot for the Dark Tower series. She was involved with the comic series pretty heavily. She did a lot of work for King as he wrote the final 3 books. She was involved in the movie and the Amazon adaptation. She's kind of the ultimate Dark Tower expert. So she did an AMA on Reddit. So we're basically going to go through some
Highlights?
of, and there's a lot of fun stuff in here. Robin's obviously a legend. Guess we can get ourselves back on there. Is that?
Yeah.
Yes.
People want to see my face when you torture me.
Hey, it wouldn't be me. This would be Robin at this point.
It's
not
you.
me.
It's you.
So yeah, this is on Reddit. It was a lot of fun to read. I'll have a link to it in the show notes if you want to go through and read it. but I got a number of highlights here.
I think it was Mike that told us about this no, Josh told us about this in the Discord for Patreons. Where it's like, hey, are you paying attention to this over on the subreddit? And we're like, wait, what?
Yeah. No, I hadn't. I don't think I even signed on to Reddit for that day up to that point. So, So let's go ahead and dive in. She starts off and says, I'm Robin Firth, and I've been traveling with Stephen King through his multiverse for more than 20 years. My reference book, Stephen King's The Dark Tower, The Complete Concordance, was originally written for Stephen King's personal use and has since been translated into 5 languages. I'm a co-author of the best-selling Dark Tower comics and work as a consultant for both the 2017 movie, directed by Nikolai Arcel, and Amazon's 2019 Dark Tower pilot, created by showrunner Glenn Mazzara. My latest fabulous adventure was traveling to Empus with Charlie Reed and his dog Radar. If you want to read more about my work, take a look at my website, robinfirth.com. I really hope you'll enjoy. Join me on Saturdays, or on September 20th, 2022 at 1 p.m. Eastern. Hail Empus. So seems like there may be a little bit of fairy tale publicity going on with this as well, but I'll take it. Mark says, loved her work on the comics. Some of my favorites. Indeed, she's awesome. She's like I said, probably the Yoda of the Dark Tower universe. Like I've always heard people say like George Lucas is the Yoda of Star Wars. Like the all-knowing, whatever. I think
it's funny how people still ask George Lucas questions and he's just like, it's this.
Yeah.
Like, he knows. He does.
Yeah.
Robin's that for the Dark Tower.
Yeah, exactly. So then it says the complete concordance paired with the... this is the first question. I'll just do question and answer style. The complete concordance paired with the searchable ebook of the 8 Dark Tower volumes has been a lifesaver for searching down bits of ephemera. Thank you. I recently went down a rabbit hole of tracking the etymology of the phrase "the clearing at the end of the path" within the series, from the first brief mention by court after Roland's trial to its establishment as a piece of Roland's world mythology in the Wastelands. I was left with a sense of wonder at how King threaded this small but powerful phrase through the arc of the books. Many examples of this kind of cultural world building is one of the reasons we love the series so much. My question, setting aside the big picture storyline trajectory, how did small details like this become part of the Dark Tower world, and how does Stephen King and you track them across the series? She says that's a really excellent question. I agree. It's the small details that make the Dark Tower universe so real and so powerful.
Yeah.
I love the phrase as well, the clearing at the end of the path. It makes death seem less frightening. Indeed. I think that's...
Yeah.
I definitely agree there. And she says the Dark Tower universe is very real for Steve. So the phrase and the characters seem to live inside his mind. They are part of his inner world, if you know what I mean. But for all of us, when there is a whole world, or in this case of the Dark Tower, multiple worlds, to hold together, it gets tough. It's like having to braid with more threads than a person can hold together with just 2 hands. That's where my concordance came in. After his accident, Steve wanted to return to the Dark Tower series. Wizard and Glass was already published, but he wanted to finish and already knew there would be about 3 more volumes. Since the story had already stretched over 4 volumes, plus a novella/long short story, and it stretched across more than 20 years of Steve's life, he asked me to make a list of characters, places, etc., along with page references so that he could follow up all the continuities and plot threads that were left hanging. I started out listing characters and places, but became so involved that I started listing all phrases, games, diseases, everything that I thought might be useful. I guess you could say I fell into the world. I did the whole thing on paper. Endless lists, she says in parentheses.
Jeez.
Can you imagine?
Just having paper spread out, be like, okay, where's that game list at?
Yeah.
Watch me.
Yeah, and then she says, then typed it all up, including my genealogical information that I could everything I could find. I even bound that proto concordance in black and taped a key to the front. Oh yes, I drew a door with the writer on the top of it, which that's amazing.
That's so fitting.
So Steve could get back into Midworld. I thought he might think I was nutty, but he liked it. He asked me to keep building my concordance as he wrote, so he could keep track of where he had been and keep a steady eye on where he was heading. So that's how the concordance grew. It was a writer's tool to help keep a running tally on characters, plots, plot lines, languages, everything you could think of. Which it is probably one of my favorite tools too. It's just so handy.
I've never checked it out.
Really?
No.
Oh man. I mean, have you ever used a concordance before?
No.
Okay. So it literally is just like, think like dictionary, but instead of like definitions, you look up like Roland, and it'll tell you every reference of where he's which obviously
Really?
that's a big one. He may not be there, but like oi or whatever. So highly recommend it, especially if you get the Kindle version, because then it's searchable and it's handy as hell. She says, what was fantastic about that journey was that we were fellow travelers. It didn't matter that Steve was this incredible famous author and I was a grad student at UMO with the dream of becoming a writer. In Midworld, we were equal. That's the incredible thing and speaks volume for Steve's generous heart. So pretty in-depth answer there, but I appreciate the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Kind of cool to see the behind the scenes on it. But yeah, I recommend the Concordance to everyone. It's a fun one for diving in deep with some of the stuff. I've even used it for references on the show before. So not that I've necessarily called it out maybe enough, but sometimes, like, we've even had discussions at times that I probably should have used the Concordance, where it's like, oh, what, when is this mentioned, or what times does Jack Andolini show up, or whatever. Which he's a fun guy, isn't he?
Oh my gosh, stop. You're on one today.
What, you don't like Jack? You're
No.
not happy every time he shows up?
No.
I am, because he's a great character.
Great character does not mean I have to be happy about him.
How many times does he die?
Twice?
Is it twice? As I say, he's either 2 or 3 times. Like he's starting to compete with Jake for deaths in the series. The next question: how did you find out about and get started with this job? And she says, I was a PhD student at UMO, which is University of Maine at Orono, studying English Lit. My focus is supernatural fiction, and one of my supervisors was Brent Hatlin, who had been one of Steve's teachers while he was an undergrad. I was a mature student, already in my 30s, and was a published poet. I was also a fan of Steve's work. One day, several months after Stephen King's after his accident, I was in the English department office checking my mailbox when Bert Hatlin tapped me on the shoulder and asked if I wanted a temporary job. He told me that Stephen King needed a temporary research assistant. Did I want Bert to recommend me for the job? At first, I thought Brent was joking, but then when I realized he was telling the truth, I was floored. Anyway, the initial job was to help sort through all the manuscripts that Stephen King had received for the contest that he'd run on writing. The job was supposed to last for about 6 weeks, and she says there was a lot of submissions. Once the on-writing gig was over, I went into Steve's office to pick up my check. To my shock, Steve was there. I had never met him in person at that point.
Oh, geez.
Once the manuscripts were sorted into piles, Steve's assistant, Marcia Di Filippo, handed them over to Steve. When Steve asked if I wanted some more work, I said sure. I was pretty tongue-tied and starstruck. I mean, who wouldn't be?
It's Uncle Stevie.
Yeah, I like to hope that I would be able to like compose myself and not like Wayne's World it.
Yeah. We're not worthy.
Like, because really I'm not. It's Stephen King, for God's
Yeah.
sake. But I hope I'd be able to keep it buttoned down, but I make no promises.
Right.
Steve handed me the Dark Tower books. The work was to write a list of characters, places, etc., along with the page references so that he could return the Dark Tower books and finish the series. And she says, although as a huge King fan, I had not yet read a Dark Tower book and was terribly embarrassed. So I always find that interesting. Because Glenn Mazzara was the same.
Yeah.
Before he got the job, he hadn't read The Dark Tower. I mean, he dove in and read it and obviously came up with all of his ideas that we've painstakingly gone through and that hurt us deeply to go through. But yeah, I always find that kind of stuff interesting where people that are pretty influential weren't necessarily fans beforehand. Whereas, Mr. Flanagan, though, I know is a fan. So he would be a different if he were to do something. Then she says, but from the moment I read the gunslinger's first line, the man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed, I was hooked. I threw myself into creating my concordance. I had the great honor of following Roland on his journey. My 6-week job has now stretched for more than 20 years. So that's awesome.
That's just how it always happens, right? Like you just happen to stumble into something like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Pretty much. Exactly. I'm only a few months away from a 10-year anniversary for a place like that I just stumbled into. So, yes, exactly. That's how it happens. The next question, I know it's a bit of a spoiler, but does Stephen King have any plans to return to the Dark Tower world in the future? Her answer, 2 words, fingers crossed. With an exclamation point. I guess I should keep that in context. Fingers crossed.
She has to know, too, because if she's the one that does all the research for him with, like, Dark Tower and stuff like that, she would know if he's like, hey, by the way, can you pull up about this, and this, and this, and this, and it's Roland, Eddie, Susanna, Jake, Oi, Flag. It's like, Oh my God, it's happening.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so next one, it says this year Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone got a 25th anniversary reissue with the original covers, artwork, and so on. Is this going to, i.e., can it please happen for the Gunslinger on its 40th? I would ask about the Dark Tower TV series, but that seems to be stuck in development hell with the studio/publisher thinking they know what we want better than we do. And then she answers and she said, I know there's a lot of celebrations planned for the 40th anniversary of Gunslinger. Hopefully we'll get something beautiful. And don't give up hope for Dark Tower coming to screen again. We may see something yet, and I'm keeping my fingers and toes crossed. And then she did an old school emoji with just the text. I don't remember if I took it down, but there's one question where she's like, if I knew how to do emojis, I'd throw a heart on there, because she liked what someone said. She's doing old school millennial emojis, so I appreciate that. But I like that. We may see something yet. That seems very titillating a little bit.
Yeah. Mark says in the chat, can I have 3 new Dark Tower books, please, with prayer hands?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else in the chat that I missed?
I don't think so.
Okay, so next up, holy cow, I love your and Stephen King's work on the Dark Tower series, and have a couple of the comics and the entire series right here on my bookshelf in front of me. Can you speak to whether there's plans for anything coming up within the Dark Tower universe? Totally cool. If not, I'd love to hear your opinions on Randall Flagg and what exactly you think his motivations are, and whether or not you think there's a merging of worlds with his character. I just started reading The Stand, and he's such an intriguing character that I'm surprised he hasn't been utilized more. And he said, and then finishes the question by saying, P.S. I do think that Matthew McConaughey was a perfect cast for him in the movie, and he nailed the role. And she answers and says, thank you so much for your kind words. I'm so glad you have some of the comics. We're still waiting to hear what's coming next in the Dark Tower universe, so stay tuned. I'm really hoping that there will be some exciting news soon. Now I don't know if that's Cage.
The way that phrase,
yeah,
the way that's phrased, and then the fingers crossed to the previous question too. The way that's all coming together makes me just feel like, man, she knows something, and she's just not saying flat out no.
Yeah,
you know?
So we're still waiting to hear what's coming next in the Dark Tower universe. So, because my original concern there was that they were talking about the comics as well. So I'm like, is she just answering about, exciting, or she's hoping there'll be exciting news soon? But then I'm like, no, wait. The way she cages this, she says, we're still waiting to hear what's coming next for the Dark Tower universe. So stay tuned. I'm really hoping that there will be some exciting news soon. So that could be screen, that could be comics, that could be novels.
Yeah. It could be, like novella, short story as well.
What about video game? Give me a Dark Tower video game.
Dude.
And then her last bit there, she says, I'll keep you posted, or on that part of the question. Then she says, oh, Randall Flagg, the man we love to hate, which I disagree. She says, it is so strange that I share his initials, Caw. So.
Yeah.
Good old Randall Flagg there. I also think of him as an agent of chaos, someone who taps into the world's shadows. Does that make sense? I think you're 100% right about the merging of worlds with his character. He definitely can travel between realities. He was once a man, but now now he darkles and he tinks. And then she says, I think that's spelled right. I'm not sure what she's referring to there. He shows up in the strangest places. It would actually be fascinating to write an article about Flagg and all of his incarnations in the King multiverse. Even when he isn't there, his energy is there, if you know what I mean. And I really like Matthew McConaughey too. So
yeah.
And no, I didn't write that question, by the way.
Yeah, makes no. If it was your question, you would have been like, yeah, Flagg's the hero, right? Mark says the 3 books he would want is The Fall of Gilead, Battle of Jericho Hill, and Gunslinger Born.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I want. I just want something.
I do too.
Next question. Even when he isn't there, his energy is there, and this is just a response to that last one about Flagg. Even when he's there, his energy is there, if you know what I mean. So that's the quoting Robin's answer. And then the guy says, "This is such a good description of the darkness in many of Stephen King novels. I've always interpreted Flagg as representing that facet of human nature, the selfish id that just wants to fuck shit up and damn the consequences. He's scary because we recognize a little of him in ourselves." And then her response is, "OMG, you said it all. Perfect answer, and I think you're right. We have to fear Flagg. We have to fear the Flagg within. Boy, it can be pretty destructive if we let it."
Which is describing a bad thing.
I was waiting for you to deny that you have any Flagg in you.
Oh no, everyone has Flagg in them. Everyone does. That's silly to deny.
Some of us just embrace it.
A little more than they should.
My life for him, sir. Next up, never thought about your shared initials with Flag. Another response. Never thought about your shared initials with Flag. Coincidence or maybe something to this? And then I don't know, a squinting laughing emoji. And then she says, believe it or not, there are some constant readers out there who believe that I am not real and that Stephen King made me up, all because that my initials are RF. Once I actually asked Steve if he made me up, and he said, yes, definitely. If that is the case, you and I are having this conversation on another level of the tower where we both exist. And when it comes to coincidence, is coincidence just caw? Getting philosophical here. So I've never heard the fan theory that Robin Firth isn't real.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never heard that. I mean, I don't know. I've never doubted it because honestly, just King, that just seems totally like him, where he's just like, I've created too much shit. I need to hire someone to help me sort it all out.
Yeah.
that just feels right.
It makes sense.
It feels right.
Mike puts in the chat where that Darkles and Tink came from. It's from James Joyce, and it's called Finnegan's Wake.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so definitely over my head on that.
Like Mike just said, the quote is too deep for me. I'm not reading it because
So next question, those Dark Tower comics are badass. Nice job. She says, thank you. They were a labor of love. I really hope we get to return to them at some point. Fingers crossed.
See, that doesn't sound like something's coming for the comics. So when she's saying like fingers crossed before and the stuff she was saying with the other
where
one.
did they leave off? Book 2?
Something like that, I think.
I think somewhere in there.
I don't know. I've never actually looked into the comics that much because I kind of wanted to like save it for
the
like
show.
the first time going through on the show and everything.
Yeah.
But her last answer was like, yeah, maybe something's coming soon. I'm like, wait, you didn't say no. Like I saw this in a show the other day. I don't remember where I saw it, but it's like someone asked a character something and they gave this whole long explanation. They go, do you feel like you answered my question? And it's just kind of stuck with me, and it's just like, you didn't say no. Did you answer the question?
Yeah.
Is it yes or no? Like, it's a yes or no question.
That's the ultimate tool
Yeah.
of a wordsmith, is
Right?
be able to make someone feel like you've answered their question when you actually haven't.
But you actually didn't.
I love it. I love the
Maybe
spirit
she
of it.
really is Randall Flagg.
And then the next one, I'm halfway through Fairy Tale and my emotions are just all over the place. LOL. I had no idea the Complete Concordance was released. I'm a long-time lover of the Dark Tower, and I'll have to check it out. Fairy Tale has made me a bit nostalgic for the Dark Tower for reasons I'm sure you know. And she says, I agree with you. Fairy Tale is such a powerful emotional ride. I understand completely why it has made you nostalgic for the Dark Tower. I just recently reread Fairy Tale, because she's in the early phases, so for her it's a reread right now.
Yeah.
Lucky. She's probably read Holly too.
Oh, probably.
And it was amazing yet again. By all links to the Dark Tower, it was amazed by all the links to the Dark Tower universe. Charlie is definitely a gunslinger, a Knight of the White. Can't wait till you finish the book. There's so much great action waiting for you. And then another one of the old school smiley emojis there. So definitely appreciate that. Let's see.
Mark says that they stop after they pull Jake through before the river crossing, I think.
Oh, okay.
And
so
then
they
Alan's here. Hey, Alan.
Oh, hello, Alan. Welcome. So they got into book 3 then. I wasn't aware of that. I remember at one point seeing it, like going to comic shops and seeing like the Lady of Shadows and like, so I knew they were into book 2 and stuff, but I didn't know they completed book 2 as well as got into book 3. So that's good. That's good to know. And the next one here, I just started reading Gwendy's Final Task finally, and I guess this is the one. There's some light spoilers for Gwendy, just small, like Dark Tower related stuff. So, it says I was utterly delighted to find the Tech Corporation is here. I just finished chapter 5 10 minutes ago, and my lunch break wrapped up. So literally just started, which I love. That got off lunch and now they're on Reddit sending questions. I was also pleased to see Joe Hill reference the Dark Tower in Nosferatu. We just talked about that
on our hangout last night. For the people who weren't in the hangout, we found out that the True Knot is mentioned in Nosferatu, and Charlie Minx, the main villain of Nosferatu, is mentioned by Dick Halloran in his telling his story. His grandpa, who's abusive to him, says that if he tells anyone, he's going to have Charlie Minx in his big flashy car come and pick him up.
And then later we hear the True Knot reference Charlie Minx in Christmas Land. So it's a few repeated references to Nosferatu back and forth.
Which we looked it up. We found out Nosferatu was published in April of 2013, and Dr. Sleep came out on September 24th, 2013,
Yeah,
which is
today.
9 years for Dr. Sleep.
9-year anniversary of Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
So happy birthday to Abra.
Yeah.
A few other characters, but not as consequential as Abra.
Billy.
Yeah. What's the cat's name again?
Azrael.
Azrael.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Happy birthday to Azrael. Those that are created. Danny doesn't get credit because
He was created
he
long
existed
before.
way before. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next
Rose the Hat.
Yes.
Let's not forget her.
All hail Rose the Hat.
No, you stop that.
Oh, dude.
Dude, a child murderer, come on. There's no way
I
you
would
could
give
justify
myself to the True Knot if Rebecca Ferguson is version of Rose the Hat was like, hey, we want you to join our crew. I'm like, for you, anything. Because she
Wow.
is a goddess.
that. Wow.
Dude, she's the best.
Wow.
She's amazing. Then the next part of this question: Did he ask for his dad's permission first, or sneak it in there? And Steve found out later. Are there any more collaborations planned or being thought about, Dark Tower related or not? So that's
All
fun.
right.
Gwendy's final task is a delight. I love that the Tech Corporation came into play. And isn't Richard Ferris an interesting character?
Wait, what?
That's a fun reference. Quite a different take on RF. I'm not certain whether Joe asked his dad's permission or not when he referred to the Dark Tower. I will have to find out. Not certain yet if there will be any more collaborations or not. Fingers crossed there will be. Then
Oh, yeah, I
smiley
hope
emoji. So yeah, indeed. Next one, will the Dark Tower comics continue? Kind of another thing that's already been asked a little bit. She says, I hope that we'll eventually be able to return. I loved co-writing the comics. We had a fantastic team of talented people and such amazing art. I learned a tremendous amount about visual storytelling during that 10-year run. Can't believe it was 10 years. So
10 years, and they got through 2 1/4 book.
no, I mean, because they did all of the Wizard Glass first. They
Right. So 3 1/4 book.
Yeah, so they started with the flat. They basically did
Right.
they did the Mazzara before Mazzara even thought of it. Is they started at the beginning, rolled through, got into Gunslinger, got into Drawing of the Three. Yeah. This next one's a fun one. Do you feel that Midworld, In-World, etc., is more of a planet or more of a realm? By which I mean, are there spatial characteristics, planet-like, where you can loop around, or is it just an expanse of wobbly, gauzy space-time? Have you ever thought about that?
No.
Like, did you? Because I think I've wondered, like, is Midworld actually? Because like everything we've ever seen map-wise and stuff, it's always just like you could see it all in like one continent. So it's like, is it just kind of a flat plane, like almost like Asgard?
You know, I take it back.
Or like, do you visualize it being a full globe? You know?
I actually take it back. I have always thought of Midworld as being an alternate reality kind of thing. Like you go through the door and you're in what would be California for us, kind of thing.
But say you were Superman and
Yeah.
you went through that door and you flew. Are you going to fly around a globe in your mind?
It's still a planet. Yeah.
I just don't know. But yeah, and then she says, and then the question, I've always had a hard time really contemplating the direction of travel for the quartet. And she says, wow, that's really interesting. I think of Midworld as a realm, one part of an alternate Earth. For me, the many levels of the Dark Tower are all like the parallel worlds or realities that physicists discuss. I think that's part of the Dark Tower's appeal. It's sci-fi fantasy reality, but it definitely relates to theories of time, space, and relativity in our own reality. You're right about the difficulty with direction in Midworld. As Roland says, time and directions are adrift, but it feels more than that. Perhaps slightly more natural, slightly different natural laws even before the world moved on. So, no hard answer. It's kind of one of those things you could always debate. Because again, I think the problem is that everything we deal with is in such a relatively small space that like it could all be North America type thing. So
Exactly.
you know, we have no inkling that like, you know, we never even get a reference to like when Roland's on the beach that like what's on the other side of that water.
Yeah, what's on the other side of the ocean? It could just be like Asgard, like you said. It goes out and just
drops off. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Next question. I just finished Fairy Tale and loved it. How much research did you do into old fairy tales to help Steve create this tale? And she says the fairy tales are pure Steve, and the whole novel is pure inspiration. Amazing. I did detail work, like what types of materials might be used for royal cloth, what bad stuff might angry kids do, which that's an interesting thing to put.
That's
her
what
on.
we were talking about earlier. Is that King's kind of disconnected with what what kids are nowadays, what teenagers are nowadays, and he hasn't had a teenager for how many years now? His kids are all grown.
Yeah, exactly.
He's probably got
grandkids.
He's probably got some teenage grandkids, doesn't he?
Probably. And then things like that. The most wonderful part was I got to watch the story unfold. It's truly amazing to watch Steve's creative process. He's absolutely brilliant, and his imagination is huge, which, I have no doubts. I mean, I look at his just list at times. I'm just like, how the fuck does this guy just keep doing it, right? Because I've also started watching The House of the Dragon, so that kind of got me back into the realm of like Game of Thrones, and that made me think of George R.R. Martin and like his inability to write at any real pace. And I just look at like Stephen King, and I'm just like, dude, my God, this guy's a machine.
He is, really. And that's the thing. It's like, you're talking about the Holly thing next year, the Holly book that's coming out.
Yeah.
Are we going to get a second one? Like, it's unreal that we're still talking about having 2 in 1 year.
Yeah, and he's 75 now. He just had his birthday 3 days ago. His 75th
just a couple
birthday.
days after yours, by the way, which was last week. So happy birthday, sir.
Yeah, 19th.
Yeah.
That's a good number, 19. Let's see what is, Alan says. That's the odd part about the rules of the beams. I've always had a hard time understanding. I'm with Peter and Tad equally. Something I want to ask Cy King himself. What's outside the beams? Or what's on the other side of the planet? Yeah, and I think
we know what's outside the beams.
But see, I've always thought that way too when it comes to like Lord of the Rings. Like, yeah, we know there's like the ships that go
away
into the west, but it's like there's part of me that's like, okay, but does that actually mean that's an actual globe and you're going from like England to America, or does that mean like, maybe this is still? It's just one of those weird things that like, I don't know. If you're not maybe like high fantasy stuff probably gets into the nitty-gritty details of like on this side of the globe is this and this is, but when you're getting into like King and Tolkien and stuff, they just don't. So it leaves it open to the idea that like nothing says this is a globe.
This is in the north,
so.
this is in the south, this is in the east, this is in the west.
Yeah,
that's where we're leaving.
And then usually there's like an ocean that is like the barrier, and like anything beyond that is almost like it may as well be
like
Mars.
Game of Thrones has an ocean in between where the Dothraki, the horse guys are, and Westeros, but aside from that, we know nothing about that planet.
Yeah, not much. And I like that, but I think it leaves it open to the idea of like, God, maybe it isn't a globe. Maybe it is like Asgard, where it's literally just a fucking disc, you know, a large disc. But
see, that's what I was going to say, Alan. We kind of know what's outside of the beam. They talk about it in book 7, with the doors underneath, with Susanna and Roland, where they're running from the monster. That's what's outside of the beams.
Yeah, like Toad-Ash Darkness.
Yeah, Toad-Ash Darkness. That's what it's called. I wanted to call it Outer Darkness, but that wasn't the right one. Yeah, Toad-Ash Darkness is what's there. I'm 99% sure that Roland says that. Like, this is what's outside of reality.
Yeah.
Is Toad-Ash Darkness. Is that Gan, the story is that Gan raised us up out of it, and it's the tower.
Yeah,
it's back
and
on the back
the
of the
tower
shell.
thing makes me think like non-globe too, because I feel like levels of the tower, the way I interpret that is like literally like discs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're just like different layers, different levels.
And at the center of each one, going all the way down, is the Dark Tower.
Is the tower? Yeah. So, I mean, I know we exist in that thing, so our Earth is there, and our Earth is a globe. So I think you could take it either way, but I love that. That's the kind of nerdy conversating that I live for.
You're right, Mike. All of the beams would interact twice on a globe. But we literally see the end of a beam where they find Shardic's lair, because it guards the end of the beam, is what Roland says when they go and find his little helpers. Eddie looks into Toad-Ash Darkness, like the start of it, and Roland has to call him back from it. So we actually see that there is an end there. Now, does that mean that the world ends? No, but what I think would be is if you go past that barrier.
Is it like a video game? And there's just like it happens to be a cliff right there that just blocks you from.
You can't get over it.
Yeah, there's nothing on the other side of it. It's just like this infinitely high like mountain.
Right.
I love that kind of stuff though.
That is an interesting question, because if you put it on like a globe, like Mike's saying, yeah, the beams would connect in 2 places, at the top and at the bottom.
Yeah.
And everything. So where's the center then?
Yeah,
because where the beams cross each other, where you have, Turtle Beam coming into the Dark Tower, going away from the Dark Tower is Beam of the Wolf or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So it's a different beam going away. So
isn't it?
What happens?
Isn't it Bear to Turtle?
Is it Bear to Turtle?
Because aren't they on the basically because they're on the path of the bear? But isn't there one point where they're like
they're on the path. They're on the.
One of them asked it. They're like, I bet you the other side's the path of Turtle, right? And Roland's like, I don't remember, but I'm sure you're. I wouldn't doubt it type thing. That's kind of the
Yeah,
answer he
because
gives.
Shardik
it's
is
not-
the bear.
Yeah,
like that's
the
where we get
guardian.
the bear from and everything like that. Being
Yeah.
of the bear, way of the turtle is what they call it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
so
the-
on
and-
the other side is the turtle. So what happens when we go the opposite directions? Like if the Dark Tower's here and the turtle and bear meet here,
Yeah.
well, what happens on the other
And
side?
You know what's another interesting thing is I know we're tangenting, but that's totally fine.
That's what we
we don't get a lot of realm in Roland's world for I'm just blanked or naval anything like water. There's fishermen at Magus, but you don't ever get an idea that there's like aviation stuck in my fucking head, and that's obviously the wrong word. But like like water travel, like maritime. We don't ever get a sense that there's like a navy for Gilead, or that there's like large ships that like the
cargo vessels and everything
like the sea that Roland's on at the beginning of book 2. We never get an idea that there's like anyone who's even wanted to like build something to try to travel that. It just for some reason it just seems like it's treated almost like it's the end of the edge of the world.
The only thing we get regarding that maritime travel is that the word you were looking for?
Yeah,
maritime.
Maritime. That's
Yeah.
probably I don't know. Aviation was
Alex.
just stuck in my head. And I knew that wasn't right.
The only stuff we get from maritime is the River Send involving Lud.
That's true.
They talk about that, and then they also talk about it with Kalas, is that there is
That's true.
barges that go up and down.
Yeah.
Now, is that
But it's
is that ocean worthy?
Yeah, as I was say, most of that feels very
That
commerce.
can cross the sea? No, it's not.
That
That's
feels
like
that feels like the stuff along the Mississippi, right back
Exactly.
in like the 1800s, where it's like you had like textiles that were being taken from one area, brought down.
lumber up in the Dakotas and Wisconsin and Michigan area being brought down into shipbuilding, which was in Alabama.
And the the fishermen and the nets and stuff
Would go
up at Magus, like that. All that feels very small world. Like I never got the sense that like Roland's world is even interested in like building a ship and going down that ocean to see
global commerce.
Yeah, which I guess that's not maybe just not part of the story, but it at least again leaves that possibility open that who knows, maybe there isn't, maybe it is just at some point the edge of the world type thing, like Asgard is the best fictionalized example.
Flat Earth.
Yeah, I mean that's I don't not sure where I want to get to, but yeah. Next up, I think the next question. I think there's a lot of evidence that Fairy Tale is a Bachman book. Chapter 1, Cujo is mentioned as a film. There's plenty of other supporting evidence that I could discuss. What are your thoughts? And she says, it's great you brought this up. I've been spending so much time thinking about Fairy Tale with the Dark Tower in mind that I haven't thought about the Bachman books, but I will now. This is an excellent point. And by the way, thank you for using the spoiler marker. I'll keep that, reminding myself to use that if I need to, because the person had the spoiler thing on Reddit. But now, I've never really interpreted the fact that Bachman books can reference, because Dark Tower references King, and multiple times. I mean, The Shining is mentioned with the doors in book 2, because Eddie's like, I can in his mind, it's like I can even remember the movie that used the Steadicam. It was The Shining, So it's like I guess I've never like delineated that line of like a Bachman book can reference a Stephen King movie or book existing. So I've never made that.
The Dark Tower is the exception to that, though, because Stephen King is real.
Yeah,
he's in the books. He writes the books,
but
therefore the books would still have their adaptions as well.
There's some in the last decade, because we've talked about them on the show, where it was just like random things where it's like, oh, look at that, they mentioned like some Stephen King thing. So I just don't think it's beneath him to do that in any facet. But just the idea of like delineating like a Bachman book, or like almost like the Bachman's a different universe, so that it can then be referential to like Stephen King as Stephen King stuff. It's an interesting.
Why?
It's an interesting thought process.
It could just be a level of the tower.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. That's the other thing. Also, is that like everyone's like, well, it mentions Cujo, so that means that it has to be a Bachman. Why? Eddie references The Shining.
Yeah.
Stephen King's in book 6 and 7. Like, I mean,
but the interesting thing is Eddie references The Shining in book 2. I have no belief that King actually thought he was going to write himself into the book at any point.
No.
At that stage in 80.
No, but he did.
No, I know, but that's the thing that trips me out a little bit. It's like if it all would have existed post accident, it's like cool. Then King had the idea. I'm going to put myself into it, which then allows me to like put Father Callahan in. They're going to find a copy of Salem's Law, all that stuff. But the fact that like these weird, kind of like 19, right? 19 shows up a few times randomly before has any significance, really, right? King gets hit on the 19th, and those last 3 books, 19's all over the place, and it becomes a massive plot point.
Yep.
But there's a few times in like book 2 where 19 is used, and you're like, wait, what? Because he revised book 1, so we don't even count that, because he could have added those 19s in 2003. Yeah, he probably did. We did our book club. I don't remember if we found a couple 19s. I think we found at least one 19 in your version that it was still 19. So maybe it's just his favorite number. But yeah, those things
could be.
Those things trip me out, because it's like I don't think we know from King's descriptions of his writing style, he doesn't know the end when he starts a lot of times. So some of those things, like, I'm going to reference The Shining in book 2 in 1987, that kind of trips me out a little bit. Next one, which fairy tale was the biggest inspirations for fairy tale? And Robin responds and says, to tell the truth, I think all of them, and not just the Brothers Grimm. Steve took inspiration from contemporary fairy tales such as Star Wars to Toy Story. They're all there. So are other stories that have seeped into the collective conscious, like H.P. Lovecraft's terrifying tales. I also love the fact that he doesn't shy away from the darker history of traditional stories. We have the cleaned up kids versions, then the darker stories lurking behind them. And let's be honest, though, did we ever believe that if King was going to reference fairy tales, he was ever going to not reference the darker sides?
Oh no.
King would never have been like, and then Cinderella lived happily. Like, no, like, he's going to, like, what was the real, like,
yeah, because the stepsisters deformed themselves to try and fit the slipper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because King's king. What is it? A leopard can't change its spots. Like,
you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Exactly. Next one. What's the most surprising piece of info or facts that you've come across while researching for King? And she says, "Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. The most surprising fact I've come across while doing research for Steve King is about tiger sharks. And this isn't super related to a lot, but I found it interesting. A tiger shark conceives multiple tiger shark embryos, but then they cannibalize each other in the womb until only one is left. It's a chubby little thing when it's born, since it's already eaten all of its brothers and sisters. This was a bit of research that spun off of a different bit of research, but it was horrible. I had to send Steve the video, even though it wasn't directly relevant to what I was researching. In the parentheses, he says, yes, someone actually put a camera inside of a pregnant tiger shark to watch this horrible event take place.
Yeah.
If you want some real vivid nightmares, Google it. Yikes. What can I say except that even in the womb, tiger sharks have big teeth. In fact, they seem to be teeth with tails. So, imagine being a research person for King. Imagine
Alan says, blah.
Imagine all of the things that you would end up finding doing research for King. Next one, does Steve still...
Imagine what kind of spider facts she knows.
I wonder if there's a Twitter thing, Spider Facts, where it'll tweet you Spider Facts every 10 minutes or something. And the next question. So does Steve still think about the Dark Tower much these days? A few passing references in fairy tale, but some of us are holding out for more tales from and trips to Midworld. And the answer here, she says, I really hope he returns to Midworld. And then parentheses, the winds of Midworld blow, bring tales. And then when you think about it, there are so many tales to tell. I really hope that we learn more about Arthur Eld. Wouldn't it be amazing? Wouldn't it be amazing to hear the stories about Midworld's history? In Went Through the Keyhole, we're told that Roland's favorite childhood story was called Magic Tales of the Eld. I'd love to read it, so I hope Steve writes it, and then a smiley emoji. So now here she is, throwing us a whole new idea.
She's
good. A whole new idea, because we have never talked about like
Eld. Yeah,
what would Arthur Eld? What would that story look like? But now I'm like, well, now that's in my head. So King, you got to live at least 40, 50 more years, because
get writing.
You got a lot to write.
Get writing. Someone go outside his house, hold up a boombox, playing the Song of the Turtle or something, and just get him going. But, Song of the Rose, that's the better way.
But don't really do that.
No, obviously not.
And then Alan says, LOL, Spider Facts, ding. You know what it should be is a text thing where you could sign up for it, and then it just sends you pictures of spiders and videos of spiders just, daily.
Oh, that's me. Sign someone up who doesn't like spiders.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it? I wouldn't design it for that. I would just design it for someone to sign up, put in their phone number, and they'll get spider videos and pictures sent to them. If other people use that for nefarious gains and ends, that's totally on them.
Right, it's always them. It's never you.
That is totally on them.
Yeah.
If people misuse my tool for good,
For good.
No, if my tool for good is used for evil, that's not on me,
I
sir.
think that was a Freudian slip there.
No, I meant
You're
like
talking about pranking people being
no,
good.
I meant
yeah.
I meant my tool for good.
Mhm.
You know,
Uh-huh,
but I
uh-huh.
didn't structure my sentence very well. If my tool I meant for a good purpose.
I think that's a Freudian slip is what that's called, sir. Is where you're like,
just
what you're really thinking.
poorly structured.
What you were really thinking is, yeah, using it for good is to prank people. I mean, no, that's not what
Oh,
I
no.
use it originally for what it's intended, please.
It's educational, and who doesn't love a cute spider, sir?
A lot of people don't. A lot of people.
As long as the spider doesn't have a baby's face on it, I'm okay with it.
Yes.
Next one, how is it to work with him? How does cooperation work? You both do an amazing job. She says, thank you, Sai. Steve is a wonderful boss. Basically, we have an ongoing conversation about ideas. He asks me a question and I find the answer. Often the research I do and answers I find inspire me to write my own tales. There are so many things in life I couldn't do, but this job, it really suits my obsessions. And also, I'm very strong. I have a very strong stomach since I come from a long line of pathologists, meaning I can research the gross stuff and not toss my cookies. And then another smiley emoji. So, hey, I could do that. I wouldn't get sick by doing research into horrible things like tiger
no,
sharks.
you would not.
What? Oh, duh. It's the dark half. I was about to say the whole eating the other creature. Like, it's like that feels very kingy and yeah, dark half. I just read that. That's why.
Yeah.
The whole eating the twin and consuming it in the
Yep.
in the womb type thing. Next one. What is your favorite Stephen King character and why? And she says, I must say Roland. I love so many of Steve's characters, but Roland has haunted me for decades. So that's a good one. Next one, what is your typical, this is a fun one. What is your typical writing and research day? How do you keep motivated and how do you treat yourself? She says, it usually starts with checking my emails and messages in the morning to see if Steve has any questions waiting. If I do, I get started. Sometimes I have an ongoing project, so I get moving on that. I try to get better at taking quiet time to work on my own tales. And then she says, Steve is very supportive of this and makes sure that I have quiet time too, which is wonderful. To tell the truth, when it comes to work, I drive myself pretty hard. When Steve asks a question, I try to have a quick turnaround time since I know he's in the middle of tales and needs answers soon. Sometimes he has to tell me to go to bed and finish in the morning or take a few days off over a particularly long piece of research. Left to my own devices, I can run myself ragged. That isn't what I was thinking of, but still. Kind of interesting, to see what it looks like.
See how driven she is.
Yeah. Next one. Is there any hope for the TV series? There was so much potential. There was so much potential in it. I could see Wizard and Glass being treated as flashbacks throughout the entire series run. Casting Susanna would be a fun nightmare. A decade ago, casting Aaron Paul as Eddie Dean would have been a no-brainer, but he may have trouble pulling off a 23-year-old now. But I would say, as I interject a little bit here, he doesn't have to be 23.
No?
He was in the book, but there's nothing saying he has to stay that way. The next up, or her answer is she still keeping my fingers crossed for a series. But I do believe if there is a series that happens, it won't be Mazzara's. Like I can't stress that enough that he's moved on. He's already working on new projects and stuff. Like people that their whole job depends on creating stuff and then selling it. They can't dwell on something if it doesn't sell. They got to move on because the bills are going to come due. So you got to jump into the next project.
To pay those bills.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I just if we take any hope from that, I would just say I don't know if Mazzara's necessarily will come back, but
Yeah.
Mike Flanagan. Just throwing it out into the universe there.
Yeah.
Next on, what do you think of the Tech Corporation is up to after the conclusion of the series? And she says, oh, in all caps, good question. I'm hoping Steve will return to the series and tell us. Smiley emoji. So, again, she's holding
She knows something.
She's holding pretty firm in her answers, but there's some things here that make me wonder.
She knows something.
Next, do you know why they changed the ending of the Dark Tower movie? I read the script years ago, and the ending seemed a lot more faithful to the nature of the novels. I'm guessing they, and then parentheses, studio execs, didn't want a child-killing hero. I get the feeling that the history of the production of the movie would probably be enough to fill an entire book. And she said, I can't quite remember the reason. She said, I have to check back. But I think you have a good point. Once a child is killed, I think it actually affects the rating of the film it receives. Dark Tower is PG-13, and I remember that the filmmakers wanted to keep it PG-13 and not having it end up with an R rating. And I've actually never heard that killing a child will push you into the R realm. I mean, it makes sense, but I've never heard that. I guess generally speaking, if a kid's gonna die, it's usually like a horror movie or something, and that's probably already R-rated anyway. But yeah, very interesting there. And then this one I've already shared in the Discord on our Patreon side. This one also, my dog is named Flag. He's a gorgeous pit mix with a brindle coat. We call him the dark pup or the walking dog. And she responded, "That's wonderful. It made me laugh out loud. The walking dog. I'm going to remember that." So, yeah. Brilliant name. That person, I hope they get a cookie for naming their dog such a wonderful thing.
And a treat for the dog, too.
Yes, exactly. Yes, a little meat treat, though, because with the name it holds, we don't want it eating vegetables or anything. Next up, Robin, you are my hero, the living embodiment of all knowledge of the tower. Say thanks. What does Psy King have in store for the 40th anniversary? And the thing is the 40th anniversary is this year, right?
It was in June.
Yeah, because
I looked it up.
Because earlier she talked about it as well, and it made me wonder, because it's like, we don't have much longer of the year, and she's talking like, oh, yeah, there's probably some stuff in store.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, when's it coming? Because that anniversary was months ago, and we only got a couple months left of this year. So she says, thank you. That makes me so happy. I think that the publishers will have some good stuff planned. And then a smiley emoji there. So I just wonder when at this point. I feel like it should have been a thing already, but we'll see. Next up, of all the books you've worked on for Mr. King, what is your personal favorite and why? She says, I must say I love them all. When I'm working with Steve on a project, I'm living in that book, so it's my universe. Don't know if I could choose. The Dark Tower books are so important to me, and I always will be. But so is Fairy Tale, and so is Steve's new book, Holly. More to come. Smiley emoji. So
That's your jam, is Holly.
Dude, I can't wait. I am very excited for that one. Next one, what is your favorite book you did research for? Do you have a lot about Maine, or do you know a lot about Maine and or baseball? She says, each time I do research for a book, I fall in love with it. My latest love is Holly. I must say I love Holly Gibney. And she says, Maine is my heart's home. I spent summers in Maine with my grandparents when I was growing up and did my teaching training at the University of Maine, or EU Maine University system. I continued to live in the state for 12 years, during which time I taught in the local schools, then returned to grad school there. Right now I'm living in England, but Maine is still my heart's home. As for baseball, I'm useless. I hate to say it, but I am. Sigh. So, next one, what is your general research process? Obviously, Mr. King provides notes on what he needs, but do you have any research or any secrets for streamlining the process? Any resources you find yourself going back to often that are more for aspiring writers, that more aspiring writers should be aware of? And this is the one I think was interesting. Gosh, it depends so much on the project. Each one is different and brings its own challenges. For any researcher, flexibility is so important. As to knowing what you don't know is trying to find a way to fill the gaps with accurate information. When Steve was writing Billy Summers, he asked me what a 20-year-old American woman might have in her wallet. Since I left my 20s behind a long time ago, I contacted all my friends who had daughters about that age. Their daughters sent me photos of their wallets and the contents. It was amazingly helpful. Sometimes I need to translate something, either several words or several phrases, into another language. For that, I have to turn to language experts or native speakers, which that's interesting because I've always wondered that, like, especially nowadays with Google Translate, but I know Google Translate is hilariously bad sometimes.
Famously for being incorrect.
So I've always wondered, like, how do people do that? So that's cool to hear.
I know that a lot of people will use professors at local colleges and stuff like that. I've seen that in different things where it's like, hey, we need to have this translated. Well, what about if we just do it online? It's like, yeah, that can lead to bad things because this word can literally mean 5 different things.
Yeah.
In some of these languages. So they actually go to like the experts, and that's what you'll see is like, here for us, we'd be looking at like the University of Utah, Utah State University, or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
For that, or you'd be contacting someone, and with the internet, you could contact anyone in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just send it to them, and just to be like, hey, what does this actually mean in proper usage and everything?
Yeah. Then she says, for the Dark Tower novel, the Dark Tower not went through the keyhole. I had to find how to tan animal hides out in the wild with no equipment, so I had to learn the brain tanning process. And she says, yes, you can cure and tan hides using the animal's own brain, squished up, of course. Pretty fascinating. Which I was aware of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I got that from a TV show back in the day, like an old West kind of TV show.
Yeah.
like Mountaineer or something like that. Maybe it was a John Wayne movie or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Next one, this is the last one actually. Does Marvel still own the rights to the Dark Tower and the Stan comics? Are we ever going to get a reprint? She says Gallery 13, the graphic novel imprint of Simon & Schuster, bought the Dark Tower publishing rights from Marvel. Stephen King still actually holds a copyright, as she says in parentheses. I think they bought the rights to the Stan too, but I'm not certain. Gallery 13 did a reprint of the Dark Tower comics in a box set a while ago, but I hope they reprint both the Dark Tower and the Stand again. I'll keep my eyes on that, and we'll post any news, and then a smiley emoji. So... pretty fun Q&A or AMA, I guess. But yeah, a couple things in there that make me wonder.
Dude, she's got to know something, right?
Yeah, there's
like it makes me so curious that she's just not like,
because like
no, I haven't heard anything.
Because we've been pretty like cautiously hopeful, but mostly like it's bleak when it comes to like adaptation.
Yeah,
but her answers aren't very bleak.
No,
that's all I'm saying. So.
And I feel like her being such a lover of the Dark Tower as well, that she wouldn't put out false hope.
Yeah.
You know, she wouldn't do that to Dark Tower fans. She knows what they went through
I would
and stuff
do
like that. You would because you're a monster. So
just for you though.
Yeah.
I would just like tell you.
Because you like torturing me because you're an evil bastard.
Like I can't say that there wasn't a silver lining to the hurt of all the Mazzara reveals. The fact that I saw them that hurt me, but then I was like, well, I get to show Peter and hurt him. So that
hashtag Tad is terrible. You're earning a lot of them today.
Oh, so that's it for the news. Let's go over to odds and ends. The first one, I don't think I have a slide for this, but I wanted to mention we actually did a reaction trailer for Mr. Harrigan's phone. That trailer released last week, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, a week ago yesterday, I think. It was on a Friday or Thursday, something like that. So Mr. Harrigan's phone trailer came out. We did a reaction video to it. But one of the things that was revealed on that for sure, we know, is October 5th is the release date where it will be on Netflix. So that is, if you are listening to the podcast and you're not listening to us live, and maybe you're getting up for your Monday morning commute and you're headed to work on the 26th, a week from today would be the day that it gets, or I'm sorry, the 5th. Never mind. It's a Wednesday, so it's a few days after that. I had the 3rd in my head. No, it's the 5th, so it's a Wednesday, which is weird. I thought Netflix usually did Thursday, Fridays, but getting a Wednesday,
not always.
Getting a Wednesday release.
Didn't Stranger Things drop on a Tuesday?
No, it was a Thursday. Or a Friday, or it was Thursday or Friday, because I remember being like, "Oh, perfect! It's there just for my weekend." So yeah, the 5th, which is a Wednesday. It is a week.
Well, they just dropped.
Week from Wednesday.
No, yeah, Netflix must have changed something because they just dropped Dahmer. No, it dropped on the 22nd, which is a Thursday. You're right. Interesting.
Yeah, strange.
You said it's dropping on the 5th.
Yeah,
which is a Wednesday.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. So next up, Stephen King is tweeting and having some fun here. So he's basically creating movies here. First tweet, he says, "How about an end of the summer horror movie called Slabor Day?" And I love the spirit of it.
Just a B-rate movie where it's just someone murdering people, doing Labor Day barbecues and stuff, or camping.
Well, see, the best part is King doesn't leave it there.
Oh, he doesn't?
He then tweets again and says, "Hard-drinking union working men and their Green Party ladies take a 3-day summer's end weekend at an isolated house in the woods, and a crazed, disfigured capitalist named Joe Manchin goes after them one by one."
Oh, boy.
So, sign me up. I mean,
I'm there if King's writing it,
everything King comes up with. No, I actually saw some people joking on there, though, where it's like, King's had adaptations off of short stories, novellas,
have it off of a tweet.
And it's like, what if the next adaptation is off of a tweet, a Stephen King tweet? Because I don't think King's going to write this, but I wonder if someone will now.
He wouldn't put it out there like that if he was going to write it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Next up, I don't think I have a slide for this next one either. Let's see, what do I have next? No, never mind. That's Uncle Stevie Recommends. The next one I wanted to point out, so in Barbarian, there's been some talk, and I haven't watched it yet, so this isn't spoiler anything, but there's been some talk in the media about the fact that Bill Skarsgård obviously has a very famous horror role that he's played.
Who do you play?
Some obscure character name,
like a circus performer or something.
Some kind of clown of some sort.
Yeah.
But yeah. So in Barbarian, there's a moment. So the whole premise. I've seen the trailer. That's all I've seen. But it's like Airbnb, but the lady shows up and there's already a dude there, and it's Bill Skarsgård. And there's like a debate a bit about whether she's going to stay or leave or whatever, and he's convinced her, oh, just stay, like whatever. There's enough rooms and stuff.
You have the bedroom. I'll take the front room. You can lock the door.
Yeah,
All
and
that kind of stuff.
apparently at one point during that, Bill Skarsgård says to her, "I'm not a monster." And because of the history of him as an actor, apparently this is getting laughs at every screening. People are laughing at this because it's just like whatever. So the director actually has a quote here, and he says, "I actually didn't think of that line as a joke until the first time we screened it for an audience, and everyone laughed, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that is pretty funny. I mean, Bill was perfect casting for this because he has such a rich history with an audience of a horror audience who knows him." And they expect something from him. So as soon as he opens that door, everyone's like, "Oh, and that's just what you want. That's just what you want." Like,
Yeah.
which is interesting because like he had to know, right? And maybe he didn't know that was going to play off as a joke, but he had to know when he cast Bill Skarsgård that like people are going to interpret.
He's using that.
Yeah, it's like exactly. It's like if it's like Ryan Reynolds opening the door, that's a whole different
That's different.
scene.
That's a different
the way-
vibe.
Yeah, exactly. But it's
Different actors, male or female, can give off different vibes.
or even Alexander
You know?
Skarsgård. Take the other Skarsgård brother.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's like 11 of them, but the other one that's really famous and in the King realm, I think he's played other roles where he's very charming, very whatever. Like
yeah.
I think you could play him and people wouldn't think like, oh God, and that's not to say Bill's like a lesser actor. I just think that Bill did such an iconic role as Pennywise that you're just not going to see him as like.
It's just like if you open the door.
Kathy
and Anthony,
Bates.
Yeah, if Kathy Bates. Or I was going to say Anthony Hopkins.
No, if it was Kathy Bates, I'd be like, nope. Like she'd open the door, I'd already be like six.
It'd just be like that Simpsons thing.
Yeah,
And there's just an outline of Tad there.
yeah. I'd be like 600 yards down the street the second like my eyes registered it was her.
The
Like,
fastest
just-
Tad's moved since he was like 12 years
Oh,
old.
exactly, dude. Like, yeah.
Look, get those knees up.
I'd probably break my leg running because I was running so hard.
And you know what she would do? She'd take you in and
Yeah,
she'd care for you and help you heal your leg. And then when it needs to be reset 'cause it healed incorrectly, she'd have her trusty sledgehammer there for you.
Yeah, I mean Anthony Hopkins. I think it's tough not to think of Hannibal with him, but I think the good thing with Hannibal though, as long as you're not rude, you're all right.
Exactly.
But with Kathy Bates or Bill Skarsgård,
You're not the writer, though. So would she have anything to do with you?
it's still Kathy Bates, sir.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna risk that.
Yeah.
You can risk that. I'm not.
She'd be fine.
Yeah.
She's a perfectly nice host.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
No, I'm out. I'm out. I would be in the next state by the time I went to sleep.
If you found out Kathy Bates was staying at the Stanley while we were there,
Oh, I'd change the date. Absolutely change the date.
you do that for you, but not for me.
Yeah.
Like if you found out that the person
Get,
who,
you put right next to her.
Yeah.
See her in the next room over.
see, but she doesn't scare me that bad. Like I'd be like, oh, it's Kathy Bates.
So you walk out to get ice or something, you see her come out with a
It's
sledgehammer
the
on her
lady from
shoulder.
the Titanic, you know.
Till she has a sledge on her shoulder. She's coming out of her room.
I'll be like, Tad's in room 217. And she'll be like, thanks. She'll go down and she'll knock with the sledge.
Yeah. And then say, "Here's Johnny."
Oh, you dirty bird.
All right, so next up we have Uncle Stevie Recommends. And the first one here, he says 5 Days at the Memorial, which is on Apple Plus, is the best limited series I've seen this year. Heartbreaking. All episodes are now streaming. So not sure what it's about, but King's always giving out recommendations, so I figured share them. The next one, he says, want a tight little thriller that will remind you of Ruth Rendell and Patricia Highsmith? Try I Came By on Netflix. It does the job. I love the way King refers to these things too. Does the job. I don't know. It's great.
It's everyone's entitled to one good scare.
Yeah, indeed.
It's October, you know.
It is.
Soon, not yet.
It's spooky season, though.
It is spooky season.
And where we at? We got one more week, I guess, until we're into official where everyone else accepts it. But I mean, for me, spooky season's 12 months a year.
Yeah.
But really, it goes into high gear at September 1st.
Your spooky season is 24/7, 365.
Yes, but I put it at a higher level from September 1st through December 31st.
Yeah.
That's spooky season.
To
proper.
December 31st?
Oh, yeah. All the way through, man.
Got to watch that Krampus, right?
Yeah, Krampus, Black Christmas. There's all kinds of good horror movies. You know, Santa Claus with Tim Allen. Just
Isn't there one about a killer snowman?
Jack Frost. Yeah. There's some good ones, man.
We need a Thanksgiving horror film.
Yeah.
Oh
something,
my God! Isn't
something
there,
with something
isn't
with a
there
killer
one
turkey.
where it's a killer turkey?
Probably.
There is one. I watched a
Probably.
scene with one of our coworkers. We found out about it. He pretends to be someone's dad, and she has no idea that it's not her dad, and it's a
I've
fucking
seen that.
turkey.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm gonna look that up. I gotta find out what that is.
You know what we could do for a horror movie for Thanksgiving is get Steve Carell, have the family getting together.
Stop it. I know where you're going. You stop.
Just imagine dinner party
Oh no.
and Scott's Tots all rolled up into one.
The movie
Just
with the killer.
2 hour movie of just Michael Scott glory for you. That's your horror movie for
Stop
Thanksgiving.
it. The killer turkey movie is called Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Mike caught it. You didn't. Santa Claus with Tim Allen. I referenced. I referenced that a second ago as a horror movie. I think it slipped by you.
Oh, did
but
you?
When I was listing all the ones, I'm like,
Oh.
and Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
People shit on that movie. I don't mind that movie. I don't.
I mean, killing Santa Claus, doesn't that make it a
He didn't
horror
kill
movie?
any. Stop with your slander. He didn't kill
Oh,
anyone.
he killed him.
Did not.
He killed him in cold blood.
Stop.
Yeah, and then stole his clothes.
Stole his clothes.
All right. So next up, we have the Palaver section. We actually don't. The email we had from Jack that he sent us that article we covered earlier is kind of our email for the episode. We don't actually. Mailbag is empty at this point.
Do you want to go ahead and hit the jingle for Jack then? Just cause.
What are you sad that we missed it?
I know everyone else is. I know what the fans want.
Oi.
That's not it.
No, but you want it though, don't you?
Oh, I want the email jingle.
Emails.
There it is. It's the emails. Tad's gonna read us what people wrote to us.
You know that's not getting deleted, right?
God damn it! See, Tad didn't want to give you guys that, and I did. So let that be on the record that hashtag Tad's terrible for trying to keep that from you.
Oh man! So actually, one thing the only thing I really have in the Palaver section is our extended content reader count list. So we've had this for a while now. I'll put the link in the show notes for this episode. I don't really tweet it out or anything because I don't want too many people to.
Yeah.
Whatever, even bots and shit. Sometimes I'll find links and stuff. So I try to keep it down low as much as possible. But anyone with a link can get in there, basically, and it's a whole checklist of all Stephen King's books. And you can go through and check off what you've read. It'll give you a percentage. You can see the rest of the content, extended content, as well as Peter and myself. See where everyone's at, count-wise, percentage-wise. Kind of a fun little thing. It's just a sheet, nothing fancy.
Mike says, love me some jingle. And Alan says, by the way, my wife is wearing my Dark Tower Palaver t-shirt today.
Oh, awesome. And
awesome.
Not the slanderous one, I hope.
I hope it is. And it's not slanderous if it's true, sir. That's the thing about slanders. It has to be false.
Oh, it's false.
Like you saying Tim Allen killed Santa Claus. He didn't.
Oh,
he called
did?
out to him. The man slipped. That is not causing someone's death.
Oh, I don't know about that.
That is not purposely murdering
You may as
someone.
well push him in front of that fabled A train.
Oh, you stop it. Don't you dare compare Tim Allen to Jack Mort.
Oh, plus you got all those creepy elf kids that are lurking around and stuff. There's some horror elements in that.
No.
Oh yeah, and actually, isn't that one of the movies that they've edited it together like a trailer to make it a horror movie?
Oh,
I think
really?
they've done that for that one.
I
That's
haven't
one
seen that. I didn't know they did trailers like that.
You've seen. I'm trying to remember what the other one was. I think someone's done The Shining as a romantic comedy, or it's just.
Really?
They'll do things where they edit it together and they do different music and try to play it as a trailer to take and completely change the context of the movie. Mrs. Doubtfire was a horror movie.
Did you start this so that you could fool Hayden into going and seeing horror films?
No, I wish. Mrs.
It's
Doubtfire,
because you always joke about that. You say it's a romantic comedy starring Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, no, the most famous one was Mrs. Doubtfire as a psychological thriller.
Oh, really?
And I want to say there may have been a Santa Claus one with Tim Allen.
I gotta look. I know what I'm doing tonight when I get home. I'm going on a YouTube binge to find some trailers that are made to look like horror films.
Yeah, or different. Sometimes I'll make horror films not look like horror films. Either way, tangent aside. So with our extended reader content, our readers count, we found that we had some issues over the last little bit. I think Gwendy's final task is the thing that really put it on our radar. To where what we found was I pulled this list originally years ago off of Stephen King's website. He since has changed his website, so it's no longer even the same list. But basically, I pulled a list off of there, used that, figured if it was from his website, it would have the ultimate authority, called it good. But then what we ended up finding was there was things like Sleeping Beauties was on there, which is co-written with Talisman, obviously, Black House, obviously, but then the Gwendy books weren't, and it would just seemed weird. So there were some inconsistencies that we found. So basically, I've been talking about it for a couple episodes where I was like, I was going to go in and do some fixes, create a rule set for it and stuff. So basically what we ended up doing was the first thing I did is I moved all nonfiction stuff to the bonus material. So Dan's Macabre and On Writing got moved down there. So we got that. Also Storm of the Century is a bonus. It's not counted, but it is a bonus because obviously that's a screenplay, not even a book. Faithful is the nonfiction. Baseball one, On Writing, and Dan's Macabre are the ones that are down there as bonus things now. That's one change. Next one, I did add the Gwendy books in, the 2 of them, not 3, because King had nothing to do with the middle book. Right. Next, I removed any novellas or short stories that were for some reason showed on the initial list. For instance, Blockade Billy was showing on there, and that was a novella that is a part of another collection. So it made no sense why that was on there. So I deleted things like that.
So you read one novella and get 2.
Yeah, exactly. So there were some weird things like that. So I got rid of that. So that's cleaned up. Next up, one of my proudest things is I added the full dates, not just the years. So if you go on that now, if you, for instance, want to know when The Wind Through the Keyhole came out, it's February 21st, 2012. So
or Dr. Sleep, September 24th.
The only thing is you'll notice on there is a lot of first of the months, because there are a lot of King things that there is no record of when it was released except for like February of 1997.
Really?
And there's no hard dates, like none. Yeah. So on any of those, I've just put the first. He actually does have a few books that came out on the first of the month. So it may be a little bit confusing, but I did my best. The weirdest one, there was one that literally only gave a year.
Really?
It just said the year 2000. And so what I ended up having to do with that one is what I did is I went to Google and I Googled that book's name and I did the date thing and restricted the dates to New Year's Eve of 2000 there or before, because I figured then I'd actually find some news articles, and I extrapolated from the news articles when it came out. So I was able to do some detective work on that. Get
Batman would be proud.
Get my inner Batman. Yeah, exactly. I don't remember which one it was. It was the year 2000. So what
There's nothing that came out in 2000.
Or maybe it was 2001. Or yeah, either way, it was early on, maybe 99. Either way, yes, I don't remember which one it was. But yeah, so now we have all those dates in there, which should be handy to have. It's On Writing. On Writing is 2000.
Oh, okay.
And so On Writing, literally all it said was 2000. Everywhere I looked, Stephen King's website, Wikipedia, everything I could find. So I eventually just went, fuck it, I'm just going to restrict it down. And then I found like reviews and stuff, and none of them directly said like it came out on this date, but I was able to find like articles from like the 5th where it's like recently published Stephen King novel. I'm like, cool, October 1st then. It was only a couple days before. So yes, got dates as well as we can. That should be fun to have future bound for references. Next one. I'm going to put new titles in. I actually thought I had a good formula built that's going to only count the total if the date has passed. I found that formula wasn't working, so right now it's not working, but I will work on that and get it fixed. So basically, when Holly gets announced, I'll put that on there, but don't worry that it's on there. It's not counting. It won't be counting against your total until that date actually hits, because again, we're now having the full date showing. Next one, still have the lines demarcating the ages of King as we've outlined previous. So those are the bold lines that are there. Like we cut off right after Misery. We cut off right after Full Dark, No Stars, right before 11/22/63. Those are kind of the lines of demarcation for the King eras as we define them here. And then also the Bachman novels are still in bold. So that's how you can figure out your Bachman stuff, is the bold-faced ones. So yeah, those are the changes. I thought I had some stats, but I guess I didn't take them down. I'll have to find those again and share them in the future, because it was interesting, like which months have the most King books and all that kind of stuff. He's very often there's shit at the very beginning of the year, like like February-ish, like whatever, which I'm guessing is like he wrote up until October or so, and then turned it over to the editors, and then they worked on it, got it all out, published, ready, and then shipped by February is my guess, because there was a number of them where I have some stats somewhere. Sorry, I forgot to put them in the notes, but we'll refer back to it later. But so that's the update on that. Go on there now. Right now it shows 74 up through Fairy Tale. And yeah, go and check your stuff. I wonder if I could share it in the chat here. Just hopefully,
I don't think you can post links in the chat. I've tried it before.
see if it does for me, because I'm the
Oh, you're the
I'm
host.
the host. A bat tad. See, I like that.
Don't slander my Batman. Don't do that.
So yeah, I mean, it's not like pretty. I'm not a designer or anything like that, but it should be fairly functional. You just add your thing up at the very top in row 1 of the column, and then just go through and check all your books. You can compare yourself against Peter, myself, anyone else. We do have a few people that are at the 100% level. Well, not anymore now because fairy tale. But there's a couple people that they're a fairy tale away from being at 100% again.
I just gotta call out our percentages real fast. Tad's at a respectable 59%. With 44 titles right. I'm at 51 with a 69%.
Yeah.
Nice. Yes, I'm still a child. Leave me alone.
Yeah, indeed. So that's fun. I've actually been meaning. I updated this like I think it was. I should have covered this on the last roundtable. I actually think I even had it on the notes, but I ended up skipping over it accidentally. So sorry, I'm a little bit delayed on this, but yeah, add your name to it. Check your things off and see where your percentages are at. See how you compare to everyone. That's the main thing I wanted to cover for the Palaver section. But yeah, I think that's about it. That's all I've got.
Someone is going in as we speak.
Excellent.
It looks like.
Yeah, and I think I might delete that though, just so long term it's not in the chat. Because again, bots and shit. Yeah. I mean, there's still times we get comments on these videos from bots and stuff. So
is there really?
I won't. Yeah. Every once in a great while there'll just be some weird ass thing coming in Russian or something. So
I forgot to plug in my laptop. It's about to die.
So hopefully everyone's got it. I'm going to remove it now just so future. I just don't want our someone to get in there and mess things up. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Go all crazy on us. So, all right, that will do it for this episode. Let's go ahead and hit the closing stuff. First of all, if you want to subscribe to us, you can do it on any podcasting service of your choice. You could stream us on Spotify or Stitcher. You can join us for a live stream at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. And here, if you want to join us live, like everyone here in the chat did. Let's see. Oh, did Carol show up?
Did she?
Mike says we missed you, Carol. But I haven't seen Carol pop up. So
maybe that's why he's saying that, because usually Carol's here.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if she popped it, because there's still times I miss chats, dude. Like like you've even said, like, oh, I'm seeing someone said this. I'm like, dude, that's literally not on my screen. So I'm still always paranoid that something's not coming through on my side.
I do not see Carol in the chat.
Okay. So if on the YouTube side, if you want to join us live, like everyone here did, be part of the conversation, over at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver, like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications so you know when we're going live. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, we go live every fortnight on a Saturday afternoon for us, depending on where you're at.
Oh, Carol is here.
Times adjust.
She just popped into the chat.
Oh, cool.
Good.
So Mike.
Everything's right with the world. Carol's here.
So Mike has the touch.
Mike.
So he sensed it.
Mike, we need to talk about some lotto numbers, my dude. Okay.
Or come with us to the Stanley.
No, to Vegas. When we go to the escape room.
No, we need someone with the shine with us at the Stanley.
Yeah, so they go after him and leave us alone.
No, just to power it up.
Stop it. Yeah. Tad. No. Bad Tad. I'm going to get a squirt bottle and I'm just going to spray you every time you do stuff like that. No.
And then if you want to, if you check out the show notes, do that over at darktowerpalaver.com. All the links that we covered in today's episode will be over there. You can go and read those articles in full, as well as there's some links that we referenced that you can find over there. If you want to become a patron, you can do that over patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. That's the best way to support the show in terms of like financially, if you want to. With that, you get like our access to our Discord, where if you want to torment Peter and send him monkey emojis, you could do that anytime on Discord, all the time, as well as
they don't need your help coming up with ideas,
as well as monthly hangouts. Like I said, we just did Dr. Sleep. We'll be doing the novel, and we'll be doing Dr. Sleep the movie next month. And next, if you want to contact us, like I said, the mailbag is empty. So if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the multiple ways to do that, with email being a big one.
The number one, email us. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. It could be about anything, how you came to the Dark Tower, fill out the survey we have on our website. Or just if you have a topic of discussion, email us. If you have a question, be like, hey, I have a question about this, and we'll talk about it.
Or tell us your theory as to why Flag is the hero of all stories.
Nope, don't do that, because that's not true. But then we also have our social media. It's Twitter is @DarkTowerPod. That's @DarkTowerPod. Our Facebook is facebook.com/DarkTowerPalaver. And then our Instagram is DarkTowerPalaver, all one word, no spaces, just squish it together. And then check out our merchandise. We talked about it today with Alan. We got the original one with the Dark Tower Palaver logo with the name. And then you got the Truth. hashtag Tad is terrible. Like I'm
Slander.
wearing right there.
You know what I need to do?
And then it's tpublic.com/user/darktowers.
What I need to
What do you need to do?
I need to do is like a hashtag Tad is right or Tad is innocent, something like that.
Tad is accurate is the best
Yes.
one that I've seen.
Tad is
Tad is
accurate.
accurate.
And not only that, I need to get that designed, put on there, and then get a child size one and give it to your daughter. And not tell you about it, so just one day she comes out wearing it. And you'll see her wearing that, supporting
No.
me, and you'll
No.
die a little bit on the inside. Right? You would die on the inside if you.
It's just like if she came out wearing like a Seahawks jersey. Ugh.
No offense to anyone in the Seattle area. Right?
I'm just a 49ers fan, so.
Hashtag Tad is accurate. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have to.
Mike, did you come up with that?
It's one we've had. On,
It's been around for a while,
yeah.
which makes me wonder if it was Mike that came up with that.
Yeah. I appreciate it though. Maybe we need to get it to balance out this slanderous shirt. You know, get one that's truthful.
I'm going to talk to Hayden and make sure this is a hard no.
I-
And I'm just going to remind him about all the stuff you've done to him as well as done to me. So we're good.
That's why you guys love me as a friend.
No.
That's why. So yeah,
Why we tolerate you as a friend. Not, I'm just
so
kidding.
keep an eye out in terms of our schedule. Most likely, we'll be back in a fortnight for sure.
Yep.
In terms of exactly how, I guess no matter what, the schedule is going to be the same every fortnight. But we're hoping the new show will be launching soon.
Yeah.
Which means that the schedule will change a tiny bit in terms of time, whatever. But we still will be doing every other week, and we'll still be here for Dark Tower Palaver. We're just going to be having a secondary show that's going. Like
At the same time.
before or after, depending
Yeah.
on that kind of stuff. So, I haven't done a lot schedule the videos yet because the time is going to shift a tiny bit when we do that, and I'm hoping we'll be able to launch in October. But we have a couple things that still need to get worked out first. That's why there's no future videos up to this point. But those will be coming soon. But yeah, count on us being here in a fortnight. On what day would that be? The 8th of October.
Nice.
So. Should be fun. That will be another roundtable. And I know we've been teasing it, but I think maybe some comics need to
Do we need to dive back into the comics?
or we also need to hit a book because we just mentioned like If It Bleeds,
Dude,
for
if
instance.
it bleeds, dude, how can we do If It Bleeds before later or Billy Summers?
Eh,
Like, how can we? How can you justify doing If It Bleeds first?
because it came out first.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, If It Bleeds came out in 2020. Later, and Billy Summers came out last year.
Did they really?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's why I'm saying If It Bleeds. So actually,
I misread that. I thought it came out.
Later and Billy Summers are both over a year old, so maybe those are safe now too. Because I think that might be our line of demarcation. We'll wait at least a year after a book's published to have like a deep dive Palaver conversation on it, because we want to give everyone time to read it before we dive in and whatever.
Call it a year.
But we will have like a warning and stuff. We're going to do a normal episode. We'll just have in a Palaver section where we just discuss like. But I think we should at least do If It Bleeds, because that's
You were just talking about that you need to redo that because, man, you hated the rat.
yeah, exactly. Not that I hated it, it just didn't do a lot for me, and I think
Yeah.
it was more about how it was outlined. So, yeah, all right. So we will sign off until then on the what was the 8th of October.
Yeah.
Sign off as we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right, thank you guys in the chat. You guys are awesome. You guys always make it a blast. Mike,
Yeah.
you still freak me out that you knew to call out Carol. That's all I'm
know.
saying, because then she was actually here. Like,
Well, you can't see the participants. You can
Oh,
see the,
can ya?
see, yeah, you can see.
I don't think I can.
Yeah, you're not special.
Yeah, apparently that's weird.
Well,
wait,
according
actually,
according to mine, it only says Alan, you, and Mike are here.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Yeah, I forgot that was there, but yeah, it's never been accurate for me. So either way, and he also mentioned that he wants to avoid the True Knot. He's avoiding the True Knot, so I guess he doesn't want to come to the Stanley.
Yeah.
So we'll have to find someone else to come and power up that hotel for us.
No.
You want to arrive at night and then have all the lights come on.
Nope. That's where it's nope. Dive out of the car,
What, walk home?
dude. Uber, come on. It's the 21st century.
I don't know if an Uber would take you that far. That's a long way.
No, Uber would take me to the Denver airport, and I'd fly home.
Which that place is more haunted than the Stanley. Let's be honest. So.
Probably.
All right, we will see you guys in a couple weeks. Thank you guys for joining us. You guys are awesome. It's always a blast to have you guys
Yeah.
with us. Yeah, very much appreciate having y'all here
Thank
with
you.
us. So see you in a couple weeks.
Bye, everyone.